Good afternoon to you and welcome to the live proceedings of the National Assembly. This being the 8th of August, the year being 2024. We are so glad you're watching this live broadcast brought to you by the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation in partnership with the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit. In the highlights this afternoon, the county government's additional allocations bill, Senate Bills number 19 of the year 2024, is given priority in the order paper this afternoon. This is a bill by the Chairperson Budget and Appropriations Committee that is currently at the second stage, and the debate on this bill is currently ongoing. The other matter listed for consideration this afternoon is the inspection visit to semi-autonomous institutions of the East African Community in Uganda, this being a motion by the Chairperson Regional Integration. The Committee on Regional Integration, through its chairperson, seeks to have the House adopt the report of the Committee on Regional Integration on its consideration of the inspection visit to the semi-autonomous institutions of the East African Community in Uganda, and the committee already laid its report on the table of the House on the 7th of August, that is last afternoon, that is on Wednesday, yesterday rather. The enhancing of matters reporting on parliamentary business on online platforms is another motion that is lined up for debate this afternoon. This motion is by the Chairperson on Matters Parliamentary Broadcasting and Library. The committee is seeking to have the House adopt the report of the Select Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting and Library on enhancing reporting of parliamentary business on online platforms. And the Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting and Library already laid its report on the table of the House on the 4th of October last year. Away from that, the other motion lined up for debate this afternoon is a report on the Consolidated Fund Services expenditures for the supplementary estimates 1 for the financial year 2024-2025. This is a motion by the Chairperson Public Debt and Privatization Committee. The committee seeks to have the House adopt the report of the Public Debt and Privatization Committee on its consideration of the Consolidated Fund Services for Supplementary Estimates 1 for the financial year 2024-2025. The Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Dr. Moses Wetangula, is already in the chambers this afternoon. Allow me to hand over for this live broadcast. Enjoy your viewing and good afternoon.
Waheshimiwa, tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, ambaye kwa hekima na wema wako umeteua nyadhifa za viongozi na mabunge kwa ustawi wa jamii na utawala wa haki wa wanadamu, tukusihi utazame kwa neema nyingi sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli muhimu za jamhuri yetu. Tukuomba uteremshie baraka zako sisi tuliokutanika hapa, na utujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote atakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili utukufu na sifa zako siendelezwe, na ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Sergeant, you may ring the bell.
The quorum bell is currently ringing at the National Assembly, pursuant to Standing Orders number 34 and 5 on matters quorum for when the House is sitting, and as they await for signals from the sergeant at arms to ascertain if the quorum has been attained this afternoon, allow me to take you through the highlights in the order of business. This afternoon, we're away from the consideration of the motion on the report of the Consolidated Fund Services expenditures for Supplementary Estimates 1 for the financial year 2024-2025, this being a motion by the Committee on Matters Public Debt and Privatization, the Coffee Bill, Senate Bills number 10 of the year 2023 by the leader of the majority party, is a motion lined up for debate this afternoon. This debate on the coffee bill, this being a bill from the Senate, is currently at the second stage, and we anticipate debate on the coffee bill, this being a bill sponsored by the leader of the majority party at the National Assembly. And away from that, the public petitions on funds spent contrary to the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution, these being a motion by the chairperson, Public Petitions Committee, is lined up for resumption of debate this afternoon. The debate on this motion had been adjourned on the 23rd of July 2023, and this particular motion has a balance of about 2.5 hours left for debate. In this motion, the Committee on Public Petitions seeks to have the House adopt the report of the Public Petitions Committee on its consideration of the public petition number 4 of the year 2022. This petition is in regards to the funds spent by the national government contrary to the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution. The committee already laid its report on the table of the House on the 12th of March this year. The implementation status of reports on petitions as well as resolutions passed by the House is yet another motion for debate this afternoon, as well as the alleged unfair trade practices by foreign investors in Kenya. The chairperson, Departmental Committee on Matters Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, on behalf of his committee, is seeking to have the House adopt the report of the Departmental Committee on Matters Trade, Industry and Cooperatives in regards to the inquiry into alleged unfair trade practices by foreign investors in Kenya. The committee laid its report on the table of the House on the 7th of March this year. The Equalization Fund Administration Bill, Bill number 14 of the year 2023 from the Senate, is another bill lined up for consideration this afternoon. We also expect members of Parliament to debate the report of the extraordinary session of the 6th Pan-African Parliament, PAP. This report is by a member of the Pan-African Parliament. The member on behalf of the caucus seeks to have the House adopt as well as note the report of the Kenyan delegation to the extraordinary session of the 6th Parliament of the Pan-African Parliament held in Midrand in South Africa from the 20th to the 27th of March 2024. The caucus that represented Kenya in South Africa already laid the report on the table of the House on the 2nd of May 2024. The second report on matters of employment diversity, this is in regards to audits in various public institutions, is another motion that we expect debate on this afternoon. This motion is by the Chairperson Committee on Matters National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity, that the House adopts the second report of the Select Committee on Matters National Cohesion on Employment Diversity Audit. Allow me to hand you over back to the chamber this afternoon as the quorum has been achieved. Enjoy your viewing and good afternoon.
We now have quorum to transact business. Clerk?
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader?
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, August 8, 2024. Annual reports and financial statements of Kenya Tourism Board for the period ended 30th June 2022 from the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. 2, reports of the Auditor General and financial statements of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, NGCDF, for the year ended 30th June 2023, and the certificates therein in respect of the following constituencies: Baringo North, Budalangi, Eldama Ravine, Emurua Dikir, Galole, Kajiado East, Kajiado South, Kigumo, Kilgoris, Kilifi North, Kipipiri, Kitui South, Kuresoi North, Kuria East, Machakos, Magarini, Masinga, Mathioya, Mbooni, Molo, Moala, Mwatate, Narok South, Ndia, Njoro, and Rongai. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Social Protection.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, 8th August 2024. Reports on the Departmental Committee on Social Protection on consideration of the Institute of Social Workers Professionals Bill, National Assembly number 17 of 2023, and 2, review of the budget implementation for the financial year 2022/2023 for the following State Department and Constitutional Commission. Vote 1, vote 1185, State Department for Youth Affairs and Creative Economy. Vote 1214, State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs. 3, vote 1213, State Department for Public Service, National Youth Service. And 4, vote 2141, National Gender and Equality Commission. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Next.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Social Protection.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopt the report of the Departmental Committee on Social Protection on the review of budget implementation for the year 2023-2024 for the following votes read on the table of the House on Thursday, 8th August 2024. 1, vote 1185, State Department for Youth Affairs and Creative Economy. 2, vote 1214, State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizens Affairs. 3, vote 1213, State Department for Public Service, National Youth Service. And 4, vote 2141, National Gender and Equality Commission. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Frederick Lusuli.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I thought you were Frederick Ikana.
Lusuli is also my name, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the joint report of the Diaspora Affairs and Migrant Workers Committee and the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations on its inspection visit to Kenyan embassies in Ottawa, Canada from 18th to 23rd September 2023, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 5th December 2023. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Kana. Next.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable Mark Mwenje.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. This is a request for a statement regarding fire incidents in Nairobi County. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security regarding the fire incidents in 4 markets within Nairobi City County. Honorable Speaker, in the recent past, several markets in Nairobi have been affected by devastating fires. These incidents highlight the recurring issues of market fires in Nairobi, which occasion substantial financial losses and raise concerns on safety measures and emergency response by the government. These incidences have a profound impact on local traders, many of whom have lost their livelihoods and are now seeking assistance to rebuild their businesses. Honorable Speaker, on Friday, 2nd of August, the market adjacent to Thika Road Mall was destroyed by fire. The following day, Honorable Speaker, on Saturday, 3rd August, Toy Market in Kibra constituency, Umoja 2 Open Air Market in Embakasi West constituency, Mathare 4A Market in Mathare constituency, and Kayole Market next to Naivas in Embakasi Central constituency were all simultaneously destroyed by fires that raged between the hours of 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. On the same day, at varying times, Honorable Speaker, in Kibondeni Market in Kawangware and Bondeni Market in Kibra constituency were also affected by fires. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security on the following. A detailed report on the investigations conducted to determine the cause of the fires in the above-mentioned areas, the relief measures that the government is putting in place to support the traders who lost their livelihoods and any compensation plan in place, and finally, the long-term plans being implemented to protect markets in the Nairobi region. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I believe there is a member, Beatrice Elachi, who is also here, who perhaps...
Once you ask for a statement and you finish, you sit down. You have no business soliciting for anybody to speak to it.
Honorable Speaker.
You just let whoever wants to ride on your statement as a joy rider request, but you don't solicit for anybody. Yes, Elachi, you are the joy rider.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, on a light note. But, Mr. Speaker, it is true that indeed we would wish the chairman also to look at the issue if the market is banned, then what happens? Because we want to see now the markets, the counties being able to ensure we have perimeter walls on these markets. And since members of the markets know themselves, for example, in Toy Market, they have been there for many years, for more than 20, 30 years. They know each other. If we can do them an open market that is more favorable and ensure every person gets, then that will be better. So for me, Mr. Speaker, we are requesting the governor of Nairobi to look at these markets at a serious note and to ensure every person who has now become a victim of this is also supported so that they can restart their businesses. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mama Dagoretti. Tongoyo, this is to you. How soon can you bring a response? Give Honorable Tongoyo the mic.
I appreciate, and first I want really also to really apologize for the families and the members who were victim of the same. But Mr. Speaker, you noted that I've got quite a number of piling and responded statements. And the reason being given by the ministries, majority of these are given by the officers who have been trying to calm the situation. So we'll kindly ask to have it responded in 2 weeks so that I address to the more urgent and the previous ones next week.
Next week? 2 weeks?
2 weeks on this particular one.
Okay.
Yes.
Mwenje, 2 weeks? Okay. Honorable Lillian Sioi. Not present. Response to, before we come to response, Honorable Tandaza. Give Honorable Tandaza. Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure regarding the compensation of residents of Southern Bypass, commonly known as Dongokundu. Honorable Speaker, the Dongokundu Road serves as a crucial bypass which connects Miritini and Kwale County with 3 bridges. To pave way for constructing the road, several residents surrendered their land with a legitimate expectation for compensation. In spite of the strategic nature of the bypass, which has lessened the time spent driving between Miritini Standard Gauge Railway Station to Diani from 2.5 hours to approximately 45 minutes, it is saddening that approximately 1.4 billion shillings that was meant for compensation was halted and is yet to be paid to the remaining beneficiaries. The situation is worsened by the fact that the road is now open and operational, making the residents uncertain about the status of their compensation. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure on the following. 1, a comprehensive report on the number of persons whose land was acquired for construction of the bypass, the number already compensated, and the status of compensation of the remaining beneficiaries, and 2, reasons for the delay and the timelines for remittances of the remaining beneficiaries, noting that the road is already in use. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Tandaza. Chair, Roads and Transport. Betsimba, you are the Vice Chair or a member of the committee?
I am Honorable Badi Twalib. I'm not Honorable Bezimba.
Betsimba was standing in front of you.
No, he has just come to me to consult on a certain matter.
Okay,
as a ranking member, you know, very many people need to consult me before doing anything. Honorable Speaker.
Okay, but Twalib, the ranking member.
Okay, Honorable Speaker, as a member of Transport Committee, I am very much aware about that road, because that road starts from my constituency.
The only thing I want
So, on behalf of the Chairman,
Yes.
Transport Committee, Honorable Speaker, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to give him a reply on the same.
2 weeks.
2 weeks' time.
So that, thank you. Yes, Tandaza? Honorable Tandaza?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think 2 weeks will be too long, given that we expect this road to be officially opened any time. And once it's officially opened, I'm really worried about how we'll be able again to follow up the matter of compensation. So I think 2 weeks is too long, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Nyamai?
Honorable Speaker.
Give the mic to Honorable Nyamai.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I agree with the statement that it is urgent, among other roads that are already in use. Excuse me. That are already being used, like Ibwezi-Kitui Road, Mr. Speaker, that compensation has not been done, that needs to be addressed urgently. Honorable Speaker, I was wondering whether this matter will also touch on National Land Commission, and the Vice Chair for Lands Committee is in the House. So I was just wondering whether it may touch on NLC, Honorable Speaker. I'm just asking for your guidance on that.
Okay, who is the Vice Chair of Lands Committee? Jen Kiara, I saw you.
Yes, I was raising my hand, Mr. Speaker, because this is a matter before us as a committee. So it should have been directed to the Lands Committee. His question should have been directed to the Lands Committee, so then we can follow up with the National Land Commission.
Honorable Tandaza, have you misdirected your request?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As a matter of fact, I'm aware that all the funds for these roads are with the National Land Commission. But of course, from the table office, that is the way it was done. But I'm aware the National Lands Commission have all the funds as we stand here.
I direct that despite the enthusiasm of Badi Twalib, the question be directed to the Committee on Lands to deal with it. So Jen, can you have the answer here by Thursday next week?
Mr. Speaker, will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Beatrice Elach. Honorable Beatrice Elach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to request for a statement regarding the arrest and deportation of 36 Ugandans from Kisumu, Kenya, pursuant to Standing Order 44-2C. I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence, and Foreign Relations regarding the arrest and deportation of 36 Ugandans from Kisumu, Kenya. Honorable Speaker, the 36 Ugandans believed to be members of the Forum of Democratic Change, FDC party, had been lawfully admitted into Kenya to participate in a leadership training program in Kisumu County. However, on the 23rd July 2024, armed individuals believed to be a combination of Ugandan and Kenyan security personnel allegedly assaulted and arrested the individuals and immediately deported them to Uganda, where they were charged with terrorism-related offenses at the Nakawa Chief Magistrates Court. It is of great concern that despite having been lawfully admitted into the country, the Ugandans were deported without a legal basis, paid Ugandan nationals, exacerbates the risk likely to be faced by them at home due to their divergent political opinions. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence, and Foreign Relations on the following: details on the circumstance that led to the arrest and deportation of the 36 Ugandans who are believed to be members of the Forum of Democratic Change, FDC party, and whether there were any extradition orders providing clearance for their deportation, a report on treaties, if any, signed between the government of Kenya and international communities, including the East African Community.
Start last week.
Kuna hoja ya nidhamu. Yes, Mheshimiwa Raida.
Bwana Spika, Bwana Chairman hafai kudanganya hili bunge. Generator imekuwa
Bwana Spika, mimi nakuwa na huruma kwa chairman wa stima kwa sababu yale mwenyekiti wa stima, kwa sababu yale Mheshimiwa Rueda anauliza, wewe ni mbunge mwenzako, uwezi kuwa unaitisha yale mambo unaitisha kwamba yeye afanye, na ni mjumbe mwenzako. Yeye ametumwa, amekuja na habari ile uliitisha. Kwa hivyo tusaidie mheshimiwa aweze kufuatilia vile unataka ili mambo yaweze kufanyika. Hawezi kuwa anaelewa kwamba hiyo chombo cha stima generator imekaa kule kwa zaidi ya mwezi miwili. Hawezi kujua, yeye ni mjumbe mwenzako. Kwa hivyo
order mheshimiwa Bukoso, wewe unapotosha bunge. Mheshimiwa Kawaya ni mbunge, tena amepewa jukumu kuwa mwenyekiti, na majukumu yake ni kuhakikisha ya kwamba yale wabunge wanaulizwa anapeleka kwa wizara, anatafuta majibu na analeta hapa majibu sawa sawa. Yes. Bwana Kawaya.
Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I'm equal to this particular task, and my statement has remained clear. The statement I brought before this House was that the challenge of transporting this generator was, one, the issue of impassable roads, which up to date remain impassable to deliver the generators by road. Number two, the issue of security, in which case I can provide a letter to this House that the ministry had engaged the services of the Navy. Mr. Speaker, when these challenges were noted by the ministry went ahead to start procurement of a contractor to transport this particular generator by sea. This process started a long time ago. It did not start yesterday. It is only that was completed yesterday. And therefore, I don't think it is fair for the member to say that I, the honorable member for Mwala, I am lying. I am not lying. You can look at the procurement details for the services to transport this particular generator. They started long time ago, but the process has been accelerated. It is true when, Mr. Speaker, you gave the orders that the process must be accelerated.
Yes, Donya, on the same issue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What Honorable Reda is saying about the chairman not giving the correct information, it's not with her alone. I've also requested for a statement in this House, and I've not been told the correct information, which later the Speaker told me that I wait for the Minister to come and then it can be clarified. So, Mr. Speaker, from my perspective, I think the CSS should be answering those questions by themselves. That's when we can ask question after question, because it's not the first time they're not telling the truth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Russell.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the town of Marsabit is served with generators. At one time, we did not have those generators for 3 months. So what this House must do, and this is what also chairman must do, once a question is raised, yes, we know chairmen are members of the House. We need to work as a team, because when a place goes without electricity for 3 months, there are children there, there are all men and women there, there are hospitals there. Many facilities are likely to go down. Whereas we cannot apportion any blame on the chairman, I think the chairman in this House have a responsibility, because they are the first point of call. Their calls are likely to be picked much faster than those of other ordinary members. So for that reason, it is also wrong for Kiunga, one of the oldest villages in the coast, that up to now it is served by generator. It is really wrong. Whereas I don't want to support any position standing here, it is important that many of these settlements should be on-grid, really not on off-grid, where actually independent power producers are milking this country dry. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Give McClap the mic.
Mr. Speaker, one of those members of parliament who did public participation all the way to Lamu East. Mr. Speaker, it is only you and who can intervene for Captain Rueda. That part of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, requires what is called affirmative quick decisions. That part of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, that is not connected to tarmac and electricity, and they go in blackout for about 3 months, is a disaster. Mr. Speaker, I call upon you to intervene. We even convert this thing from being a statement answered by the chair for energy to actually a question and have the minister answer this matter here so that the issues of Lamu East can be part of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. That part of the country requires attention and prioritization in all matters and attention for this country, Mr. Speaker.
Members, you know, now we have cabinet and the majority leader who is here will start arranging for ministers to come here to respond to questions. But as we do so, Honorable Kawaya, Lamu is a special area. It's a serious security challenged area. And you know we've had serious difficulties of abductions, attacks by Al-Shabaab terrorists, and so on. Even for security operations alone, you need electricity. Can you report back to this House on Wednesday afternoon that in fact the generator has been transported, installed, and is working? I don't believe that you can take 2 months procuring transport to ferry a generator from Mukowe to Kiunga. I don't believe so. So it's not your mistake, but those who are giving you information are being economical with the truth. Just make sure that by Wednesday you tell us that the generator, the procurement that has taken 2 months, has finally transported the generator, installed, and is working. Yes, give the Honorable Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the direction. I just wanted to point out that your orders have been implemented. The statement by the member did not refer to a new generator. It referred to restoration of power, which was occasioned by a faulty generator, which has since then been repaired, and as we speak is in Kiunga being assembled, and Kiunga will be lit today. Mr. Speaker, the other matter of a new generator is actually an initiative by the ministry after considering that Kiunga cannot be served by the small generator alone, that a new generator has been procured to assist the existing one. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I will appear before this House next week as directed to report on progress with the new generator, but by today, Kiunga will be lit, as it has been lit before.
What you'll bring to the House, Honorable Kawaya, is not progress. Information that the generator has been moved from Mukowe to Kiunga and installed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You are not bringing any progress.
Most obliged, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Lilian Sioi.
Thank you, Speaker. I stand to request for a statement regarding delay in processing of medical insurance approvals for the Kenya police officers. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Health on the delay in the pre-authorization process for medical insurance approvals for the Kenya police officers. Honorable Speaker, the Medical Administrator Kenya Limited, MACL, established in 2018 to address gaps in health insurance administrations, oversees the medical insurance scheme for various public servants, including the Kenya Police Service. In April 2024, MACL announced changes in the administration of the police medical insurance scheme, including replacement of CIC insurance with APA insurance as the lead insurer of the scheme. Since this transition, there has been an alarming surge in complaints from police officers concerning significant delays in obtaining insurance approvals to access treatment. Additionally, the health service providers listed in the medical scheme have also reported that the delays in obtaining insurance approvals have led to the disruption in provision of healthcare services to police officers. These delays pose health risks to our officers, especially those who require urgent medical attention. The situation raises concern about the effectiveness of the current medical scheme in meeting the healthcare needs of our police forces, who play a crucial role in maintaining law and order, often at great personal risk. It is therefore imperative that they have access to prompt and efficient healthcare services. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of Departmental Committee on Interior on the following. 1, a detailed report indicating the number of police officers who have received health care services under the revised insurance scheme since April 2024, including a breakdown of approval awaiting times. Number 2, reasons for the excessive delays in insurance approval processes for police officers. 3, immediate measures the relevant government agency is implementing to address and expedite approvals for critical medical cases affecting police officers. And 4, long-term plans being implemented to address these challenges, including the possibilities of changing the medical service provider. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I really wanted a motion on this, Mr. Speaker, because it is something that is very crucial for our police officers. But I was told it will take long, and that is why I chose to put a question.
Thank you, Tongoyo. Give him the mic.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. So be it. Social protection. Alice Nganga to the statement sought by Mayaka. Is Mayaka in the room, in the chamber? The questioner is not here.
So
You'll do it next week? Next order? Yeah? Majority Leader, your Thursday statement.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44.2a, I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met on Tuesday, 6th August 2024, to prioritize business for consideration during the week. Honorable Speaker, members should take note that the House further varied its calendar yesterday and is set to commence its long recess on Friday, 16th August 2024. That is next week. And resume its regular sittings for the third part of the third session on Tuesday, 17th September 2024. This extension will allow the House to finalize with consideration of the remaining cabinet nominees within the set timelines and also conclude any other urgent business pending before it. I therefore urge all members and committees to conclude any urgent matters before them and ensure that there is smooth transaction of all priority business before the recess begins at the end of next week. Honorable Speaker, with regards to business for Tuesday next week, the House is expected to consider the second reading of the following bills, if not concluded today. A, the County Government Additional Allocations Bill, Senate Bill number 19 of 2024. B, the Coffee Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2023. And C, the Equalization Fund Administration Bill, Senate Bill number 14 of 2023. Additionally, Honorable Speaker, debate will also be undertaken on the following motions, should they not be concluded today. 1, report on the consideration of the inspection visit to the semi-autonomous institutions of the East African Community in Uganda. 2 is a report on enhancing reporting of parliamentary business on online platforms. 3, report on the consideration of the consolidated fund services expenditures for the supplementary estimates 1 for the financial year 2024-2025. 5, report on consideration of a public petition on funds spent contrary to the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution. 5, report on the implementation status of reports on petitions and resolutions passed by the House. 6, report on the alleged unfair trade practices by foreign investors in Kenya. 7, second report on employment diversity audit in public institutions. And 8, report of the extraordinary session of the 6th Pan-African Parliament, PAP. Honorable Speaker, we are also scheduled to have for the first reading the livestock bill of 2024, the livestock bill, National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2024. And Honorable Speaker, as indicated in the House Business Committee, I have since written to the Principal Secretary, the State Department of Livestock, asking the PS, or rather the Permanent Secretary to, or rather, we got the approval of the House Business Committee, Honorable Speaker, this Tuesday to stay the first reading of this bill and any further consideration of the bill to allow the ministry to conduct sensitization of the public and stakeholders on the contents of the bill and the policy underpinning this bill. Honorable Speaker, as you are aware, this bill was to appear for first reading and further consideration by the committee, and we since agreed that the ministry needs to do further sensitization to members of the public, because there has been a lot of propaganda online, and we may see this bill suffer the same fate as the finance bill of 2024, being demonized with a lot of untruths. And therefore, I have since written to the Principal Secretary to conduct further public sensitization. And upon completion of this sensitization process, we shall await their further guidance on the bill, on whether they want to proceed with it in its current form, or there are things out of the public sensitization process that they will need to reconsider, and they will inform us in due course. Finally, Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, the House Business Committee will reconvene on Tuesday, 13th August 2024 to schedule business for the rest of that week. I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House, as I also lay on the table of the House the letter addressed to the Principal Secretary, State Department of Livestock Development, staying the first reading and further consideration of the livestock bill, pending that sensitization program by the ministry. Honorable Speaker, allow me to say the sensitization process that we have asked the ministry to do is informed by what the experiences we had with the finance bill. That, Honorable Speaker, we have seen, as has been considered by His Excellency the President, ministries author bills, send those bills to the House and abandon them. They do not take time to sensitize members of the public on the policies underpinning those bills. And, Honorable Speaker, when then people read things and interpret them in their own way, some that may not be very accurate and correct, they misinform members of the public and use whatever has been published to incite members of the public. And we have seen a lot of misinformation and disinformation being peddled online about this livestock bill. And I have engaged the Principal Secretary and the Ministry of Livestock Development. They have clarified a number of things, but we are asked them to engage all the stakeholders, even those who have been spreading the falsehoods and misinformation online, so that they get to understand the policies underpinning the publication of that bill before it comes to us for consideration, so that our ministries, before they get bills being considered by the House, they will have engaged with stakeholders, they will have made it known to members of the public what policies underpin the bills that are being published and being brought to this House, Honorable Speaker, so that Parliament does not bear the brunt of all the things that are being brought, and the owners of those particular bills are not explaining to the public what is it that they want to achieve. And many of the provisions in these bills are for the betterment of our country and for the good of the same public, Honorable Speaker. But when the public get misinformed and disinformed, they then get to demonize Parliament and imagine that Parliament comes up with all these bills, Honorable Speaker, and therefore we want the ministries, in line with what the President has said, that they must take ownership of even communication within their own state departments. And that's why we've asked the State Department for Livestock to make sure that they own up to everything that is provided for in this bill, by going back to the public, sensitize the public on each and every clause in that bill, the policies underpinning each of the provisions in the bill. Then they send it back to us in whatever form they will send it back to us for further consideration by the House, including the public participation, Honorable Speaker, that we normally do as a House. And you have seen, Honorable Speaker, with the Social Health Insurance Fund bills or the health bills, what the courts have said when they nullified those bills, that there ought to have been more sensitization. Unfortunately, Honorable Speaker, and I don't know why the courts would have taken that direction, the courts told Parliament to sensitize members of the public. Parliament cannot sensitize members of the public. It is owners of the bills in the ministry, and we've also asked the Ministry of Health to go back and sensitize members of the public on the policies and provisions of the 4 bills or the 3 bills that were nullified by the High Court. They then send them back to us for public participation. The public participation program is the only opportunity that Parliament has to engage with the members of the public and get feedback from the people on whatever they have been sensitized by the owners of the bill. With that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the statement.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Next.
Order number 8, the County Government's Additional Allocations Bill, Senate Bill number 19 of 2024, second reading.
Honorable members, I'm told the chairperson of Budget and Appropriations Committee has sent word that the report is not ready until Tuesday. So next order.
Order number 9, motion, inspection visit to semi-autonomous institutions of the East African Community in Uganda. Resumption of debate.
Who was on the floor? Wanjiku, had you finished?
I wasn't, but I am sure it was remaining few minutes.
You are truncated by quorum.
Yes.
Yes.
For the second day.
Yes.
So if the clerk can confirm to me how many minutes?
How many minutes are left for the chair? 16. You have 16 minutes to go.
Okay.
You are not obliged to exhaust them.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Yes. In a nutshell, I had already spoken of the institutions visited, and I had enumerated several observations from the committee. One which I would want to repeat because I see the House is quite full today is the communication challenges. Honorable Speaker, we have Northern Corridor and Central Corridor, and anytime you are in the Central Corridor, we experience challenge of communication is too expensive, and we are hoping that the partner states in the Central Corridor will be able to fasten and fast-track that policy so that the communication in the whole of the region can be very easy. The other issue which I may want to highlight is the air transport, which, Honorable Speaker, we know traveling to Dar es Salaam is quite expensive even than traveling to Dubai, and this is because the air taxes are also not yet harmonized. As I conclude in observations, Honorable Speaker, the committee also observed that the political conflicts witnessed between some partner states have had negative effect to the business in the community. We therefore call mitigation at the summit level. For example, the Migingo issue, which has been a thorn all the years between the Republic of Uganda and the Republic of Kenya. If this issue can be finally harmonized at the summit level, the business can thrive. Honorable Speaker, we also seek the legal framework for the elimination of NTBs as per the Act of 2017 to be also fast-tracked. Also, we ask
Honorable Speaker, we ask in the spirit of integration, the efficiency of lake resources that has hosted the 3 partner states mainly be shared in a harmonious way so that every country can benefit without a lot of struggle, particularly against the Migigo issue. Honorable Speaker, with those observations, I would want to go straight to the recommendation by the committee, and the committee recommends that for these charges to be addressed, we ask the Council of Ministers to be in Kenya to lobby the other Council of Ministers in matters of finances by finding a suitable financing mechanism, because the remittance way is not tenable anymore. And Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends that one of the avenues that can be established could be what happens in African Union, in European Union, by possibly creating a levy to all imports or all exports within the region, or even think bigger, where the countries contribute in accordance to their GDP, but like the European Union, the same countries which contribute more, they also get the veto powers. Honorable Speaker, the Council of Ministers may also consider the goodwill from the late Honorable Kibaki, the President of the Republic of Kenya, may his soul rest in peace, who one time played the big brother role and bailed out the Republic of Burundi. We consider the Republic of South Sudan, the Republic of Burundi, arrears accumulating every year, and the partner states may play the big brother role and possibly bail the 2 countries out. Honorable Speaker, we also ask the Council of Ministers to consider reinstating the budget of the community. Honorable Speaker, I have information because I served in Yala that every partner state did contribute close to $8 million, and during COVID, this money was reduced to $7 million, and it has never been reinstated, considering the EAC has been increasing the institutions. Either the Council of Ministers hold to create more institutions or reinstate the money. Because, Honorable Speaker, every institution we visit in the whole community, either central or northern corridor, there is always a challenge of professional staffs. You will find the whole institutions with the 2 staffs, particularly the skilled staffs. So we ask the Council of Ministers to consider this budget. But most importantly, considering we observed the air transport within the region as very expensive, we call the Council of Ministers, and this National Assembly must know that as per the treaty, we can only urge the Council of Ministers to consider harmonizing the air taxes and even lobbying the Republic of Uganda, the Republic of Tanzania, and other republicans which have not signed this protocol, like the Republic of Kenya and Rwanda, so that we can have a fairly considerable air travel, which will also make our intra-trade drive within the community. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, the committee also asked for fast tracking of the Act of 2017. This regulation was to assist the community in removal of non-tariff barrier. Just by way of information to this House, the budget from the community even has a vote which normally facilitates the non-tariff barriers department, but still, without the act, not so much is happening. Honorable Speaker, I also ask through the committee that the Council of Ministers consider to finalize on national consultations on, sorry that I have already said having a air tax fee regime, but I want to say that they harmonize the treaty now that is in the amendment. Honorable Speaker, even this National Assembly is expected to take its recommendations because the treaty was created when we had only 3 countries, and it is time that this treaty be now amended. As a committee, we are already putting up the recommendations, and 2 critical issues is mainly the consensus issue. As you may know, Honorable Speaker, in EAC, you can never decide on any policy without consensus, and this policy have time and again been a double sword, because a country may feel we are not happy about this policy and they skip the sitting, so you can never conclude the matter. At the same time, some countries, if we say we don't go consensus, can also lobby amongst others and consider one country is absent and pass a policy. So these are very critical issues to the community and to the growth. And Honorable Speaker, as the amendment of the treaty is happening, we hope the National Assembly of Kenya and possibly Senate will also be putting their recommendations to our committee so that we can participate in the growth of this region. Honorable Speaker, without much ado, I would want to ask Honorable Naomi Wako to second this motion and encourage the members of this National Assembly to be debating and also contributing in the matters of EAC. By way of information, Honorable Speaker, after the Republic of DRC Congo, the population of this region is closely almost same to the population of America. So why are we still doing as a community international trade? We can easily do intra-trade, 90% possibly, and possibly 10% international trade. Because with a population of 340 citizens within the region, this is a huge number that can enable us to thrive in the trade, particularly if we do away with non-tariff barriers, sensitize the citizens, because I am sure quite a number of East African citizens do not still realize the potential and the trade available to them. That can only happen if the members from this National Assembly understand, appreciate, internalize, and speak of what is held within the East African, so that the mama mbogas in the rural areas can know they can also trade with our neighbors. Honorable Wako will second. Thank you.
Please put on record that you move. Put on record that you move the motion and request for a seconder.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I move the motion and request Honorable Naomi Wako, who is a member of Regional Integration Committee, to second.
Thank you. The Honorable Naomi Wako.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I stand to second this report. I also want to congratulate our committee, the members who visited and came up with this good recommendation. And Honorable Speaker, as I second, the purpose of the visit was to appreciate the operation of the East African institutions and organs, and also to enhance mutual relationship between the neighboring countries, and all that has come out in the recommendation that we have been given. And the other thing that members wanted to achieve was to make them understand the role of Parliament, which they did very well. And our chair, who is very well experienced, has always guided the committee in the way that needs to be done. And the members have also been very faithful. And in their recommendation, in our recommendation, we have said that financing mechanism needs to be established, because through this, then we will be able to make that effective and also self-sustaining. Again, political stability in the neighboring countries is of paramount importance, because when we have challenges and the wars going on and people fighting each other, then that will affect us in different ways. It will affect us economically. It will affect us in terms of growth and development. But if we are all politically stable, then we will be able to grow. Again, the issue of airspace need to be opened, And there are some few things, as the chair has said, that intra-trade is slow due to NTBS. This needs to be given a lot of attention so that we overcome that challenge and then make sure that we move fast. The issue of staffing in all organs also needs to be put into consideration and seen so that we have relevant people and people who represent the East African community. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I second, and I also encourage members to contribute to this because it concerns all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Naomi. Honorable members, I now propose the question that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Regional Integration on its consideration of the inspection visit to the semi-autonomous institutions of the East African community in Uganda, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 29th November 2023. Honorable members, you may now proceed to contribute. The Honorable Dr. Robert Pukose, member for Endebess.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I second the inspection visit to Uganda, and I want to say that within the report that we've had, this issue about the air traffic, which is from Nairobi to Dar es Salaam being more expensive compared to from Nairobi to Dubai, I think we should be able to harmonize our tax within the region and make business within the region to be easy, accessible, and profitable at the same time. Madam Speaker, there was a question which was raised by the member for Takoradi North about arrest of 36 members of FTC in Kisumu. And I think that is part of the cooperation within East Africa, that when you have suspected terrorists assembling even within the regional area, security agents within the neighboring countries can cooperate and make sure that such terrorist threats are eliminated. We've had, I come from a constituency which borders Uganda, that is Endebess, and you find that at times people want to commit crime on this side and run away to Uganda. So if you have cooperation between security agents, then it makes it easier that it is safe. It is, nobody can commit a crime within this other area and run away to another neighboring country. I think that is the cooperation that we want. And even we need to be able to do businesses, free movement of people, free movement of goods within East Africa. And I think that is the way to go. I remember one time when President Museveni spoke and said, we would want to encourage even Kenyans to go and own property in Uganda, and also would also want to encourage Ugandans to come and own property, land, and anything within our region. So I think that is the brotherhood that we'd want to encourage within the region, that we have free movement of people, free movement of goods. We are able to harmonize our state agencies within the region, so that even when it comes to education, whether you train in Uganda or train in Kenya, and this especially in the medical profession, we find that doctors who have either trained in Uganda or trained in Kenya, you can work freely within the region, because Kenyan Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council, they recognize anybody who has trained within the East Africa, so long as you have the necessary minimum qualifications for you to be enrolled as a doctor within the region. And similar to others, nursing council, clinical officers, I think they are in the process of harmonizing within the region. So I think that is the way to go. And especially when it comes to medical now, we have issues about outbreaks within the region. As we speak today, we have the Mpox, which I think by yesterday it was reported in areas like in the border of Kenya at Taita Tafeta. and other regions. So I think cooperation within our region will be able to assist us to make sure that disease surveillance is able to track and be able to arrest any disease outbreaks, Ebola, Mpox, Marburg, and many other viral hemorrhagic diseases that can be able to break out within our region, such that we have cooperation and more so man our border points. And as we speak today, many of our border points are one-stop border points, and this facilitates easier movement of goods within our region. So with those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to support the motion.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Joshua Mwalio, member for Masinga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to speak on the inspection visit to semi-autonomous institutions of the East African community in Uganda. And I want to commend those who went, including the able MP for Kipiripiri, who has just tabled the...
Order, Honorable Joshua Mwalio. Did you say she is member of parliament for Kipiripiri?
Constituency.
Kipipiri. Constituency.
Okay.
The able chair.
Kipipiri. Okay, thank you very much. And I just wanted to say something on the East African community, that it has been in the paper for many days that we are going to remove the non-tariffs barriers, which makes us not to do business as East African community member countries. And it has been a song for many, many days, which needs to be actualized, because time has come when we need to do business as a bloc. All these countries can give us a lot of business, such that we don't even need to trade with other countries out of Africa. But we have not been able to tap in this opportunity because of small political issues, small barriers, small things that we need to remove and be able to do a lot of business. You find that there are Kenyans who are experts in some areas, who are able to work in Congo, who are able to work in Tanzania, who are able to do business in Uganda. But these small barriers have made it impossible for us to be able to make wealth and make money in those countries. You find like Tanzania, there is a lot of timber. In Congo, there is a lot of timber. But the barriers that are there, the bureaucracy that is there, when you buy your lorries of timber, they are detained at the borders just for nothing, to be able to pay either some kickbacks or some things to be able to fulfill some of the requirements. But if we can be able to remove them, then there could be free trade which can reach our country in a big way. I know Kenyans are very enterprising, and even now, the timber that we are using for our construction in this country is coming from Tanzania, is coming from Congo. But before you bring I talked to one of the transporters and one of the traders. Before you bring the lorry in this country, the money that you will have parted with it because of the barriers, the many tariffs that you have to pay, the many taxes that are imposed, that you end up eating all your profits, and even you are left with nothing even to be able to buy the next consignment. And that discourages the traders, that discourages the contractors, that discourages people from doing business. But you find that people, a country like Rwanda, when you go to Rwanda, you want to open up even a company. In 6 hours, your company is already registered, a limited company. You are given your incorporation certificates. You are given all the certificates to be able to start even trading. So I believe that if we can be able to remove all these barriers, then we can be able to travel freely to the member countries and be able to do some trading. So I urge them that are able, even the ministers that are able to remove them, the ones who are supposed to harmonize them, to be able to hurry up, so that we have business. People have been saying there is no business in the country, but there are business across our borders. But how to get there is the problem. So I urge the ministers in charge to be able to remove all these barriers so that we can be able to trade and make wealth. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for those few remarks that I've been able to make.
Thank you, Honorable Mwalio. The Honorable, I don't see the Honorable Suleka in the House. Honorable Biti Selachi. Honorable Charles Ngusia Nguna. Honorable Lilian Sioi. Member of, oh, is the Honorable Charles Ngusia here? Mwenge West. It's just that you're seated in a place where I'm used to seeing you in a different place. You may proceed, Honorable CNN.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to add my voice on this. Although I have not seen the report, but let me begin by appreciating the committee on the visit to Uganda in East Africa, where we are supposed to be proud of, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, beginning by, I was lucky last week to attend the Greek Parliament and learn things about integration and the benefit it can really bring to our people. And for example, when European Union started integration, there were so many benefits. There were so many disparities between the economies. Most of the countries used to use just different currencies, but when they merged, right now they are using euro, and things are very easy. I am speaking, Madam Speaker, on this point. We need to enhance our institutions in East Africa and actually to finance them for our benefit in terms of trade, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the issues of movement. Right now, for example, in the European Union, if you are coming from Italy, you don't need to go through immigration if you are traveling to Germany or to Greece or to any other country, Madam Speaker. But in the issue, like, for example, in Kenya, when you are traveling to Tanzania, you have to go through a lot of issues at the Namanga or even at the border, Madam Speaker. We need to have what we call movement of people and goods across the East Africa for the benefit of our economies, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we need to enhance this.
The chair of the committee has a point of order. What is out of order, Honorable Chair?
If I can give him information.
Okay, she has a point of information. Would you like to be informed, Honorable
Yes, I would like the Honorable Lady,
thank you,
Madam,
Honorable.
to inform me about it.
Thank you, Honorable.
Proceed.
I agree with him. We haven't reached the European Union where you cross the border without any paper, but I want to give him information that since establishment of one-stop border post, we don't go through a lot of issues also. Today, you only need your ID at Namaga border. In fact, it is one desk. This is the Kenyan desk, and this is Tanzania desk, and within 5 minutes, you can also cross. Thank you.
Yes, you may proceed. I hope you appreciate that
Madam
information.
Speaker, I'm well informed, but I'm just comparing the process. I am, for example, in Europe, if you are traveling from Greece to Italy, you don't need even anything to be stamped. You don't even need anybody to check you, even at that desk we have established at Namanga, the desk between the Kenya and Tanzania border. It is totally different, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Chair, please appreciate information about Greece when given by the Honorable Charles Ngosi Anguna. He has a lot of information on matters Europe and specifically matters of travel in Greece and its environs.
If you may allow me, Honorable Speaker, I appreciate, but we must agree that we are in Africa, in East Africa, and I have also traveled, particularly from Geneva and France, and what he is saying is correct. But then, these are developed countries with huge cameras, which will even identify how much meat you are carrying in your car in terms of kgs, and we are not yet there. As you may realize, Honorable Speaker, if you may allow, at Namaga border, we still have the manual scanner where the truck will have to be scanned manually. This is all about budget. Hence, in this report, and I hope you'll be touching, we are discussing of alternative financing mechanism for our region, because the remittance way is the one which have led us this. So we can only work with the material that fits us, which is manual.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable Charles Nguna, I'll give you another 3 minutes because of the disturbances, then you can conclude.
Yes, Madam Chair, I appreciate for that. Actually, I'm just trying to give information so that we can move towards that. Madam Chair, the resources we have in East Africa, Congo being included as the richest country in the world, yet it is one of the poorest when it comes to matters of the living standard. Madam Speaker, the resources we have in East Africa can really almost give us almost 90% of our needs. But due to political instability in this region, Madam Speaker, we need to be brothers keepers, actually, when it comes to these issues. I am talking of the issues of airspace. We need to harmonize taxation. Why do we have different navigational charges in Ugandan airspace and Kenya and Tanzania when we can have a common tariff being charged to us, Madam Speaker, in our airspace? I'm talking of the issues of security agencies. We need cooperation in this. Uganda, we can consult them to protect our borders. For example, when I was in Greece, there is what we call the Greek Navy, which actually helped us a lot in terms of pirates. They are the ones who was credited for doing away with the pirates we used to experience in Somalia. 19 countries in Europe came together and protected the water transportation, Madam Speaker. We need to ensure we are safe in all the countries so that we can have free movement of goods and people across the whole of East Africa, including the Somalia, which has really been donked by many problems of insecurity, Madam Speaker. We just need even to start thinking, apart from getting money to finance these institutions, why can't we have common currency in East Africa? So that we don't have to change to Ugandan shillings. We come up with a very stable currency for our region, and we will be free to trade in Tanzania, and even things will become cheaper. We will even attract foreign companies, Madam Speaker, in our region in East Africa. And with those few remarks, I support the report of the committee, and job well done. We need to look on all these issues, and we will have a better East African community. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Oh, thank you very much. The Honorable Fatuma.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I stand here to support the report, and I want to congratulate the committee led by the Honorable Member for Kipipiri for a good job. Indeed, as East African community, we are a family. And it is important to put it that it is not a country that divides us, it is just a border, but we are one country under East African community. Madam Speaker, there are provisions that were put when the treaty was signed about 25 years ago. And the times have changed. If we don't do this fast,
I think some countries do feel left out and they feel like there are lesser children in the family because the treaty was just for the 3 countries and now we are so many in this treaty. So it is important to put it into consideration that the faster we do it, the better they will feel that they belong to the community. Madam Speaker, there is inter-university council in East African community. Indeed, when our students do their exams in a school here in Kenya, in a college in Kenya, we should have a quicker way, a networked way, so that the transfers of the credit can be done easily from an institution in Tanzania to Kenya or vice versa, so that the students also do feel you study in Kenya, you study in Uganda or which other country, you are East African student, you are one community. Madam Speaker, I come from Migori County, where we do fishing. I come next to Lake Victoria. There are incidences where our fishermen go into the water, and the water has no boundary, and you don't cross the water with any passport, and you fish there, and in the middle of the night, because fishing usually happens in the middle of the night, and very late in the night, they are harassed, they are arrested, and they are told to throw back the fish to the water, and they are told, yes, the water belongs to you, but the fish belongs to us. Without mentioning any country, I would wish that that neighboring country that knows what I'm talking about to remember that we are a community. And when we are a community, whatever is served on my plate, you should not feel bad when it's not served on your plate. We all are fishermen within East African community, and just as we can cross the border easily, so we should be able to cross the water easily and catch a fish the other side when the other person on the other side is not interested in the fish. It is very frustrating, and we do go a lot of emotional stress when we try to rescue some of the fishermen from this other side of the country to come back to our country. Sometimes they are charged with things that really don't exist. So I would request that all countries to feel that we belong to one home and treat each other as brothers and sisters. Madam Speaker, I am very happy that at least with the so many countries we have, there is peace in our regions. But there are few countries that are experiencing problems within their boundaries. And I'm requesting the chair to take into more consideration about the peace, because when peace affects the other country, it affects the neighboring country. We should look more into how to harmonize peace amongst East African community so that we can live more as brothers and sisters. The committee had recommended that the ministers are urged to urgently complete the ongoing staff recruitment process, which is necessary. One, it will create job opportunity for either countries, depending on where the person is employed from, and this again will help us understand each other's tradition. When a Luo or a Kenyan or a Kikuyu goes to work in Tanzania, you learn other traditions and cultures. And because we are all Africans, we do know that we share all our cultures. So it is important for that integration, and also I will encourage that when they go the other side, they'll come back with brown ladies from Tanzania, our black men from Luo Nyanza, we get brown ladies from Chaga, and now we'll have a mixed, beautiful people in our community. So I encourage that wherever you travel there, please make good use of that. We are dark, they are brown, and we can get a very good combination there. Madam Speaker, I sit down saying that I really congratulate the committee and I support the adoption of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable James Nikal, member for Seme.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, when I listen to people, then I really appreciate how far back we have gone. All these things we are recommending here and we are wishing you to do were there in the East African community. You know, some of us don't even know why this region up here is called community. It was the headquarters for the East African Common Services Organization. And we had the same currency. I saw the East African shilling. It was one. We had East African railways and harbors. So the railways, all the way from Gulu to Dar es Salaam, was one. We had East African Airways. It was one. So you didn't have. We had the University of East Africa. It was one. With medicine in Makerere, law in Dar es Salaam, and engineering in Nairobi. That's how it was. You could there were research organizations. There was the East African Medical Research Council with leprosy in Lupe, malaria, I think, in Tanzania, and Sesefly was in Tororo, Sesefly research. So what we really should be doing is we should move very fast, because if you look at these recommendations, look at recommendation 3 and 4. Those are about taxes. Harmonize our tax-free regime. 5, non-tax tariffs. Then if you go to 4, recommendation 8, recommendation 10, this is all civil aviation. This is for a place where before you had one airways, the East African Airways. Actually, after Form 4, I was supposed to train as a pilot, and I did the interview here at the community. But then I decided to go ahead. So these things were actually there. After East African Framework for Support Transfer of Credit among Universities, it was one university, so that the vice chancellors used to rotate. And so I think we should move fast. What I see that is happening in the current East African community, and the chair, the honorable member, actually has been in the community. I may be wrong. Now we feel like we are several countries jostling for resources instead of actually looking at all those countries as one, and so we make things one. Make me definitely I feel like an East African, because we may not know that before that, people used to move freely. You didn't need anything. You used to move freely. The train ticket in Dar es Salaam, you could use it to travel in Kenya buses in Nairobi, if you had the train ticket. So that now we move as one, I feel as one, and even the registration of professionals. Honorable Kosi was saying, this we did in 2000 and about 2002. Actually, it was Kenya Medical Association. We had a meeting, and we actually decided to invite all the ministers of health from the East African region. Professor Ngeri then was the minister. And one of the things we agreed on was that we have reciprocal recognition of certificates. And if you look at it, madam, we exchange lecturers during exams. So why do you go to Makerere and examine a student and pass them? And now when they come to practice in Kenya, you want to examine them again. So all this, I think, is something we should do. And I would just urge, like those of us who get to the community to Yala, let's start thinking of one unit, not several countries jostling for resources and advantage. Just look at what the people need and do that for our people. With that, I really support this report, particularly the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Nyikal. The Honorable Dr. Makali Molu, member for Kitui Central.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to add my voice into this important debate. I want to start by appreciating Honorable Wanjiku Muya for the passion matters relating to East Africa community. Having served there for 5 years, Honorable Speaker, because Honorable Speaker, if you remember well, we joined this parliament together with Wanjiku Muya. She had a break of 5 years. Me and you, we remained here. Then she came back. So I'm sure the 5 years she was in Ihela, she got a very good exposure in terms of what happens there. Honorable Speaker, the reason why there are regional blocks, or what we call regional integration in economic terms, is because by coming together as a block, there are lots of advantages associated with such a blocks, and more so when you consider the population which comes to be one unit. Because if you are to sell goods to such a kind of a block, you realize you can do business. And listen to this report from the committee. What I'm picking is I'm agreeing with what Dr. Nyikal has just said, that this issue of East Africa community
we've been doing a lot of talking and minimal action in terms of pushing the real issues. Honorable Speaker, if you listen to what Honorable Mwalio of Masinga said, the issue of trade barriers and non-tariff barriers, I always wonder, Honorable Speaker, why it is so difficult for East Africa community or countries, for example, Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya, why it should be so difficult to trade amongst ourselves. For example, Honorable Speaker, each of these countries have what I will call competitive advantage on a specific issue. I think somebody has said, for example, now we know Tanzania, they're doing very well agriculturally in terms of agricultural products, food products. Kenya, we have our own competitive advantage. Uganda, they have their own competitive advantage. Neighboring Congo, and the same with other countries. And the thing is, if we came up with the enabling environment for trade to be promoted, Honorable Speaker, it will be very easy for these countries to take advantage of their competitive advantage and do serious business and grow their local economies. But you realize that always we are having trade barriers being imposed by one country against another. And as a result of that, Honorable Speaker, we can't do trade. Honorable Speaker, in the old days when politics were at the center of it, countries would be aligned in terms of the political alignment. But now, issues of politics have taken a back burner. Now, issues of trade have taken the front burner. And if we are serious on trading, Honorable Speaker, all these countries should do what it takes to make sure that trade is actually facilitated and countries are able to do trade without any minimal challenges. Honorable Speaker, look at the issue of labor movement. For you to move to a country like Tanzania and Uganda, even though Honorable Muya says we just require ID, but I thought that since we are all brothers and sisters, it should just be a walk-in, walk-out thing, Honorable Speaker. Anytime you want to go to Tanzania, you have to carry your ID or you go for a temporary pass from the immigration department. Why should it be like that when anytime we meet in international meetings, we talk about, Honorable Speaker, my brother from Tanzania, my sister from Uganda, my brother from Kenya. If we are at that level of integration, we shouldn't be requiring these travel documents. Look at the issues of money. You have Kenya shillings, you have Uganda shillings, you have Tanzanian shillings. What the hell? You go spend time exchanging and the issues of exchange levies also come into play. Why don't we just have East Africa community shilling and we do business without any problem, Honorable Speaker? So I think really what we need is more action than talking. We need to see our political leaders, we need to see the Council of Ministers coming out strongly and saying we need to make the next move and see them taking action so that this issue of integration, we take advantage of it like the EU has taken advantage, Honorable Speaker. And by doing that, we'll be helping our people who live in these countries, we'll be growing the economies for the better standard.
You need another minute to conclude, or you have... So you have 2 minutes to conclude.
I think you need to. Is it okay? Sure. Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Just as I conclude, because the point I was trying to drive home, Honorable Speaker, was the issue of where we are saying if we are able to just do what we call the issues of monetary, normally we have always thought about coming up with one currency for East Africa, Honorable Speaker. And the other matter which is critical, Honorable Speaker, I think it's also very important that we take it this. We always see our political leadership meeting, we see the Council of Ministers meeting, and we have actually even technical meetings. Honorable Moya will confirm that. But there's a lot of talking, Honorable Speaker. And I think really the issue of financing, as she says, I want to support the idea of thinking of alternative way of financing. Because, Honorable Speaker, if you look at the contribution by countries, you find some countries are up to date. Other countries are even 3 years behind. And because of that, you find that even the membership of IALA, Honorable Speaker, if you talk to our colleagues in IALA, they will tell you they are not able to work effectively because some countries have contributed, others have not contributed. So I think really we need to come up with the alternative financing mechanism so that this important body called IALA and all the other regional bodies function well. I'm looking at the court, because you have also the Council of Judges, Honorable Speaker, and all these other important bodies. If they are well facilitated in terms of finances, they can do very well for this region. And I can tell you, Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, no regional bloc will be able to help their people unless they get some of these basics right. And if you look at those who have gotten right, like the EU and other blocs, they have done very well. We can take advantage of this coming together as countries so that we grow the welfare of our people and also improve their standards of living. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support and thank the committee for this good report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Agnes Pereio, member for Narok North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support the motion by Honorable Moya. East African communities are one. We are one in a way that we have a lot in common. If I can give an example for us, the Maasais, we share a lot with the Maasais on the other side. We intermarry, we share the business, trade, we are pastoralists. We also do the same work. Because we are one, we intermarry, our girls are married on the other side, and we also marry from the other side. And when it comes to wild beasts, they move from Masai Mara to the other side. So we have a lot in common that we share. We are brothers and sisters, and the language is one. And therefore, there is need for our governments to make sure that they integrate and bring us together so that we can benefit because we are one. There is no need of having a boundary because it's just a boundary. We don't even know that these boundaries exist because we feel like we are one. When I used to work for the FGM board, I could go to Tanzania and educate women on the effects of female genital mutilation because our culture is the same. Therefore, I support that there is need for the integration of the governments, because we share one culture, and we share all the businesses and the trade, and the people are the same, and we are one. So we see ourselves like one community, and it is important for our governments to come together, make sure that they also sit together, because it's just politics that is different, but I think any other thing that we do, we share and we are on. For that reason, I support the report by the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member for Narok. The Honorable Dr. Wilberforce Houndo, Member for Funyula.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support the Committee on Regional Integration on the report of the inspection visit to the semi-autonomous institutions organs of the East African community in Uganda. Honorable Speaker, let me start by declaring that I come from a border constituency of Funyula in Busia County. I come from a community called Samia, where at any given time, 3/4 of the community lives in Uganda. We are just a handful in Kenya. In Uganda, we have about 6 constituencies represented by people of Samia. In Kenya, we only have 1. And also want to declare at one time, when Mzee Mudi Awori was the vice president of this country, his brother was running for presidency in Uganda. So again, let me emphasize the point that East African community was a well-conceived idea in the 1960s and 1970s, realizing that the partition for Africa divided the people of Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania arbitrarily without considering the cultural and racial, the heritage of the people around there. Honorable Speaker, I've had the opportunity to have traveled to Rwanda. I've had the opportunity to have traveled to Tanzania, literally most of it. I've had the opportunity to literally travel to Uganda and see how the place looks like. In any case, Honorable Speaker, let me also admit, I can easily take breakfast in Kenya and cross over, go to the Shamba in Uganda. I live on the border. Honorable Speaker, I have gone through the report. They have raised pertinent issues, but let me admit these issues are not new. They have been with us for a long time, and that's why sometimes, Honorable Speaker, I wonder whether the IALA, East African Legislative Assembly, does. Because these are things we have been talking about. This was the foundation of the East African community. We seem not to have been moving at all, and we therefore we hope this report, the committee will share with our members in IALA so that they can pursue these ideas as we move forward. Honorable Speaker, let me comment over the past few years, there has been tremendous improvement in the relationship between the countries. The one-stop border point, you can actually walk there and you don't have to spend a lot of time. You walk at the Namanga border, the Migration Office of Kenyans is here, the ones for Tanzania are here. You go to Busia, that's the same arrangement, you can have the one point. And Honorable Speaker, it's either by coincidence or whichever way, I do not need a passport to go to Uganda. Because when Uganda looks at me, it thinks I'm a Ugandan. The Ugandans don't need a passport to come to Kenya and Busia area because we speak the same language, so we can actually go through. Honorable Speaker, I'm really in favor of recommendation number 11. And let me speak on that one. This African qualification framework should support credit transfers among the universities within East African member states. I say so because we have so many Ugandans who come to school in Kenya. At one time, we had so many Kenyans who used to go to school in Uganda. The process of equating the Ugandan qualification to Kenyan qualifications sometimes is unnecessarily too cumbersome. Since we don't seem to pursue the same education standards, because Ugandans up to now still have their level, us we do not have their level. We must find a regime whereby we are able to equalize these qualifications so that we can have seamless transfer of skills and competencies from one country to another. Because many, even those of us who went to school much earlier, many of the mathematics teachers were Ugandans. Even at Astarehe, the teacher who taught me mathematics in Form 1 was a Ugandan. Honorable Speaker, I want to ask your indulgence to give me one minute to talk about the harassment of fishermen in Lake Victoria. And as she has clearly observed, the main resource in Lake Victoria is the fish. And the committee has clearly observed is that the resources we have, we do not have shortage of resources, fish resources in Lake Victoria. The shortage is man-made and it's a result of bad fishing practices.
Please give him 2 minutes to conclude.
Honorable Speaker, the fish in Lake Victoria mostly breeds at the entry point of River Suo and River Nile. And then they spread throughout the East African community. The fish has no passport at all. He's neither Kenyan, he's neither Tanzanian, he's neither Ugandan. I want to urge the committee, through IALA and the respective legislative assemblies, if we can have fishing protocols that would allow our fishermen to move from one point to another while observing typical fishing practices. This, Honorable Speaker, will entrench and enhance the cooperation and the good intentions of the founders of East African community. Honorable Speaker, we have talked about non-tariff barriers. Tanzania are notorious. Ugandans are more flexible. Can we find a mechanism to allow free trade between Kenya and Uganda? And as they clearly indicated here, intra-East African trade only accounts for less than 10% compared to 90%. We have more room to improve East African community. We have no room to do more trade if we get serious about East African community. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support the report.
Thank you. Honorable members, there be no other interest in this. I would like to call upon the mover to reply. Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And on the onset, I would like to appreciate the members who have spoken very well on the matters of East African community, and also thank the Office of the Speaker, the Office of the Clerks, and even our committee's clerk for having facilitated us very well. But having said that, Honorable Speaker, I have noted with concern that members endeavor for East Africa to have better borders, just like what is there in Europe. And of course, we also endeavor to have the same, but currently we also enjoy the one-stop border that is there. I want to inform the House that we have a whole protocol on peace and security, and as much as we speak of a coalition of willing, this peace and security is a protocol that is signed by every partner state, and even the upcoming partner states like Somali, DRC, Congo are also supposed to sign as per the treaty. So that can assure members that we continue living in harmony.
Move this motion. That I beg to move the motion that this House adopts the report of the Select Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting and Library on enhancing reporting of parliamentary business on online platforms, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, the 4th of October, 2023. Honorable Speaker, the Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting is established pursuant to Standing Order 212D, and that standing order mandates this committee, among other mandates, to consider and report on all matters relating to broadcasting of proceedings of the House, and to advise the House on matters related to public participation, among the mandates given to this committee. Honorable Speaker, Article 118 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 provides that Parliament shall conduct its business in an open manner, and its sittings and those of its committees shall be in public. It also provides for public participation and involvement of the public in legislative and other business of Parliament and its committees. Honorable Speaker, in addition, Article 34 and 35 of the Constitution provide for the freedom of the media and access to information, respectively, Honorable Speaker. The involvement of the media in scrutinizing parliamentary proceedings, parliamentary business, in plenary and in House committees is fundamental to meeting the threshold of good governance. And this committee, Honorable Speaker, is seized of the matter of public participation. We have actually developed a bill that is already a possession of this House on matters public participation, a very important aspect in governance, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the PSC, or the Parliamentary Service Commission, has a strategic plan, 2019 to 2030. And in that strategic plan, Madam Speaker, there is pillar number 3, which is a matter on public trust. That is, the involvement of the public in the legislation and the oversight functions of Parliament. It is because of the importance of engaging the public in matters legislature, Madam Speaker, that Parliament, in its wisdom, started the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit, which was established in 2008, and there exists a contractual agreement between the Parliamentary Service Commission and the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation to broadcast parliamentary business on a 12-hour per week arrangement, radio and TV, Madam Speaker. this arrangement, which is a contractual arrangement, somehow is restrictive because of the 12 hours. And Madam Speaker, the other thing about that contractual agreement between KBC and Parliamentary Service Commission, PSC, is that that broadcast is within Nairobi environs, meaning that the members of the public outside the Nairobi area do not get these broadcasts as they go on. Maybe there can be broadcasting through other media houses that are fed by KBC, but the contract is between KBC and PSC. That is restrictive, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is important for us to realize that the world is changing. We are now at the digital age, and that digital age requires that we partake of all activities that are undertaken in Parliament to a wider audience. And this is the reason why, Madam Speaker, the Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting and Library decided to bring out this motion to this House that we would rather expand the scope and the space of reach for the public. And this scope is enabled by the digital platforms, the social media platforms. Madam Speaker, as I speak now, these platforms, social media platforms, afford Parliament a good outreach where Parliament can then broadcast itself and get to be known what business goes on in Parliament at any one time. Madam Speaker, after us interacting with the experts in the departments of broadcasting, the Department of ICT, the Media Relations Department of Parliament, Madam Speaker, we observed the following: that the Parliamentary Service Commission has a social media policy, which was passed in 2016, and with the rapid pace of technological change, new trends in the social media sector have since emerged. Madam Speaker, the official social media channels are hosted on different sites of Parliament, and therefore doesn't make access easy for the users. The YouTube channel, for instance, is underutilized in terms of providing comprehensive media coverage of activities undertaken by members of Parliament. And Madam Speaker, you will bear me witness that a lot of work done by the members of Parliament, either in their committees or in their constituencies and their counties, Madam Speaker, go unnoticed. They are localized. And yet, there can be very good lessons, Madam Speaker, that can be shared across the country if these activities were able to be broadcast across the country via the social media platforms that the Parliament of Kenya hosts. Madam Speaker, the usage of parliamentary social media channels to disseminate activities undertaken by members of Parliament in their respective constituencies need to be enhanced. And this will give the Member of Parliament visibility right up to the grassroots, Madam Speaker. And these are the kind of interactions that need to be encouraged between the members of Parliament and the public or the people they represent and the departments they oversight. Because in this manner, Madam Speaker, the members of Parliament can then be said to be at work in their various areas. It is not only in the chamber, Madam Speaker, that Parliament works. If I can remember or paraphrase the quote by our former speaker, that Parliament in committees is Parliament at work. Madam Speaker, as it is now, very few of our members, in fact our committees, get covered or are broadcast live. If this broadcasting through social media platforms can be enhanced, can be introduced, can be established, Madam Speaker, the interest of the Kenyan people to know what their members of Parliament are carrying on in their committees where they are working in their constituencies and their counties as they serve their constituents, Madam Speaker, it will show the amount of work members of parliament do engage themselves in. Publishing the members of parliament information or content on parliamentary social media platforms will require, of course, proper mechanism for authentication and verification of information sources to ensure credibility and accuracy of this information. That is very true, Madam Speaker. We are 47 counties where our women reps and our senators work from, and 290 constituencies. That is a huge constituency, Madam Speaker. And if we have to reach out to the grassroots, then we have to establish points of contact, people of focus, focal points in the various constituencies and counties, so that information generated from the constituencies, from the counties, can then be shared in a manner that is organized, in a manner that is going to be relevant for promoting the work of Parliament and the image of the members of Parliament. Madam Speaker, we need to be innovative as a country, as a chamber, as a house, as a Parliament of Kenya. Kenyans want to interact with this Parliament. Madam Speaker, the unfortunate thing that happened to us in June when this chamber was stormed has had everything to do with public participation, where the public feels that they have not been listened to effectively by their representatives. Madam Speaker, with this motion, I want to believe, Madam Speaker, if this House can actually adopt this motion, it will kickstart a process of reaching the lowest point of representation, which is the constituency for members of Parliament, in terms of information about parliamentary business, in terms of information about the work of the parliamentarians. And in so doing, Madam Speaker, we will dissipate some of the fears that our members of Parliament, of the public, have about the work that MPs do while they're here. Madam Speaker, based on those observations that we made as a committee, having interacted with those experts in Parliament here about how we can improve the broadcasting of parliamentary business using these online platforms, the committee recommends that the Parliamentary Service Commission, which is the executing arm of this House, needs to review the Parliament of Kenya's social media policy to account for technological changes that have arisen or that have come in, the new trends, and ensure that policy remains relevant. We do not have to go by what we passed in 2016. And you bet, Madam Speaker, the changes that come with these technologies, Madam Speaker, come so fast. So some of these things that were passed in 2016 are not relevant anymore, Madam Speaker. And so the Commission needs to review that policy and make it be in vogue so that it is useful for the broadcasting of Parliament, for the visibility of Parliament and the members of Parliament. Madam Speaker, the website, the parliamentary website, needs to ensure that official social media channels are domiciled on the website for easier accessibility. If that can be put into one website where you can access your Instagram on Parliament, the YouTube, and those other social media platforms, it would help in terms of ease of access. Madam Speaker, developing guidelines on the packaging of content or information of activities undertaken by members of Parliament in their respective counties and constituencies, and dissemination of the same through the YouTube and other social media platforms would be a plus, Madam Speaker, for this House and for these members of Parliament. If we can follow the works of the members of Parliament right up to their constituencies, right up to their counties, Madam Speaker, we are rich in terms of what we do as a legislative arm of government. We are rich in terms of these services that we offer the public that have given us the mandate to come and represent them here. And so, Madam Speaker, the committee, my committee, is asking that the Parliamentary Service Commission actually allocates adequate resources while in their budgeting for purposes of, one, identifying the focal people that can be used by the Parliament social media engagement to deal with information, collect that information, bring it and process it, and package that information in a useful manner that is going to educate the people of Kenya and sell the members of Parliament and Parliament as an institution in a manner that will give Parliament its dignity, that will give Parliament its worth in the society, in Kenya. Otherwise, as it is, Mr. Speaker, the way things are being done now, there is a lot of stories, there is a lot of information out there about members of Parliament. And sometimes a lot of that information, Mr. Speaker, is not information that is authentic. You will find a write-up of a member of Parliament by a media channel that is not factual, that is not truthful, and that hurts. And that hurts the image of Parliament, that hurts the image of the member of Parliament or the members of Parliament, giving us a raw deal in terms of who we are as members of Parliament, what we stand for as members of Parliament, and even as leaders in this country. Mr. Speaker, it is my humble submission that there needs to be an effective communication, media coverage of the members of Parliament of this House. If we do that, Mr. Speaker, we will have less of the kind of interactions that we had with the public. That was not very positive. That did not portray members of Parliament in a good light. And Mr. Speaker, we must listen to what the people of Kenya want from us. We are their servants, and the only way to serve is if we can be in tandem with the desires of the members of the public who have given us the honors to represent them here, not that we come here to represent ourselves. So we must have an effective communication channel or media. And this is what the Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting and Library is presenting to this House in this motion, that can we expand our space of broadcasting? Can we go beyond the traditional TV and radio broadcasting of parliamentary business and move on to online platforms? The number of people you're going to reach, Mr. Speaker, on the online platforms is huge, based on the technology that the online platforms afford us. You can see what we do with these gadgets, the phones that we have. These phones are everything that we need now. And we will be able to listen in, we will be able to intervene and interject and give opinions through these channels, through these platforms, and that interaction will enhance our legislative role. It will enhance the public participation of the members of the public on matters legislature. And finally, Mr. Speaker, allow me to end by urging this House not to lose our practices and our traditions while utilizing the social media channels. In the end, it is for the legislature to be agile and to make use of the opportunities offered by the platforms to advance their constitutional mandate. Mr. Speaker, I want to say, if you adopt this motion, if this House adopts this motion, we will have given Parliamentary Service Commission a task. One, to take us to our constituencies, to connect us with our supporters, our constituents, in a manner that will enrich our oversight role, in a manner that will enrich our representative role. Honorable Speaker, I want to end there, and I want to say thank you for the opportunity to move this motion. I want to request Honorable Wanjuku Muya to second this motion. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And on the onset, I want to congratulate the committee and the chair and say that this motion couldn't have come a better time than this time. Honorable Speaker, this parliament is based on the Article 95-96 for the welfare of society and the just government of the people. But this welfare of the society and the just government of the people is not known by the said people. In Parliament, we represent, oversight, and legislate, but so little is known because in the current era, the information moves so fast out there on the social media, online platform, as the chair indicates, yet this Parliament, without despising the KBC, is still on KBC, and that means our news will be known tomorrow. Honorable Speaker, the principles of communication dictate that you must have a message, a channel, and the receiver. And the message must be channeled, and the receiver must receive it and give feedback. On a practical example, recently we had the finance bill, and our usual mode of communication were not received. We only received the feedback from the Gen Zs, because the finance bill and the most contentious issues like bread, sanitary towels, the land issues, the message was well conveyed, channeled, and the receiver received it. While Parliament wasn't able to do the same, we received the feedback of reject. Yet we had a good bill, but we didn't make it to convey the same message. With that, Honorable Speaker, I would urge the Parliamentary Service Commission to consider considerable budget for the Communication Department in Parliament, enhancing the capacity of the communication handlers, because they could have head officers who are trained very old times, yet the times have changed and the information is needed almost like instant coffee. Honorable Speaker, without much ado, I would second but urge the chair and the committee to consider after this motion to move higher, maybe to making a bill or reviewing the policy of 2016 and making it in tandem with the current times. With that, I beg to second.
Thank you, Honorable Wanjiku Muya. Honorable members, I now propose the question. This Honorable House adopts the report of the Select Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting and Library on enhancing reporting of parliamentary business on online platforms, which was laid on the table of the House this on Wednesday, 4th October 2023. Pretty Whip. Yes, the Deputy Majority Whip, Dr. Naomi Wako.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Based on Standing Order 96, I suggest that we adjourn this and then we move on to the other order paper. Yeah.
I want this speaker on. It is now on. In my entire life as a speaker, I've never seen a motion before this floor moved with such detailed information and knowledge. Let me therefore, before I consider the request made by the Deputy Majority Whip, congratulate the mover and the seconder for very informative moving. I see Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu agrees, the only professor in the Public Accounts Committee, Dr. Wilberforce Oundo, also agrees. For once, I note Honorable John Kiarie, the chair of the Departmental Committee and Communication, Information and Technology, or Innovation? Yeah, innovation is also in the House purposely to make very substantive, contributions to this. And I think I thank those who want to proceed. But looking at this matter, and particularly the perspectives brought by the mover and the seconder, I want to request that we agree to debate this important matter, considering what the Assembly went through a short while ago, and the substratum to a future date. And so it is so ordered. This will be debated the next time it will be scheduled. I know that hurts the Honorable John Kiari, who wanted to contribute immediately, as it does the mover and the seconder, and of course all interested parties. But let us make that decision so that we debate this when the House is a bit more full. It's very critical. Next order.
Order number 11, motion, report on the consolidated fund services expenditures for the supplementary estimates 1 for the financial year 2024-2025.
The Chairperson, Public Debt and Privatization Committee to move. Do we have the mover?
Yeah, Honorable
Yes.
Speaker.
Oh, that is the Honorable Dr. McCallum.
Yes, Honorable Speaker.
Give him the mic.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts a report of the Public Debt and Privatization Committee on its consideration of the consolidated fund services for the supplementary estimates 1 for the year 2024-2025, laid on the table of this House on Wednesday, 24th July 2024. Honorable Speaker, the consolidated fund services expenditure constitute mandatory expenditures that are directly charged to the consolidated fund and include public debt servicing expenditures, pension payments, salary and allowances for independent offices and constitutional commissions, among other expenditures, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, under the first supplementary budget for the year 2024-25, the total CFS expenditures are estimated to increase by 23.78 billion, pushing the total to Kenya shillings 2.08 trillion. And as such, they will remain the largest expenditure component of the government, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the increase in the CFS expenditures is attributed to increases in pension expenditures, and there are no changes to the public debt servicing expenditures that will remain at 1.85 trillion, comprised of interest and principal payments worthy interest Kenya shillings 1.01 trillion and 843 billion. That is interest 1 trillion, principal about 8.3 trillion. So in short, what we are saying, Honorable Speaker, is that the part of public debt is not changing. So the only change in the supplementary estimates is associated with the pension. Honorable Speaker, the Kenya shillings 23.78 billion increase in the pension liabilities is attributable to carryovers and unsettled pension claims due to the liquidity challenges experienced in the financial year 23-24. This amount includes 21.22 billion Kenya shillings in lump sum payments owed to retirees or people who have retired, and Kenya shillings, Honorable Speaker, 2.56 billion in employer contributions to the public service superannuation scheme. The breakdown of the money to those who have retired is as follows, Honorable Speaker. The July 2024 monthly payroll includes 259,222 principal pensioners, drawing a total of 5.51 billion Kenya shillings, and 83,615 dependents who are expected to have received 1.9 million, Honorable Speaker. Additionally, 13,403 civil servants are projected to be retiring this year with entitlements to both lump sum payments and monthly pensions. In short, we are saying, Honorable Speaker, because of the liquidity challenges in the country for the last financial year, we had cut over in terms of we had to push some payments to this financial year, just as we did with the CDF payments, and just as we did with the county government's equal share, which was not released. Honorable Speaker, following this increase, pension liabilities will thus amount to 223 billion for the financial year 2024-25, and will now constitute 6% of the total expenditure, or 2.3% of the gross domestic product, and consistently, Honorable Speaker, becoming one of the government's largest expenditure items. Pension expenditures have grown at an annualized rate of 21.3%, Honorable Speaker, since the year 2014-2015, when they stood at 2.4 billion. So this expenditure item, Honorable Speaker, keeps on increasing year in, year out. Honorable Speaker, to finance the revised fiscal deficit for the 2024-2025 supplementary budget, the National Treasury indicated that the overall borrowing target, which was supposed to remain at 45 to 55 in terms of ratios, meaning, Honorable Speaker, domestically, we intend to borrow 45%, that was the initial before the supplementary, and then externally, we had planned to borrow 55%. However, to finance the fiscal deficit for the first supplementary estimates, the indicative borrowing framework, Honorable Speaker, is currently estimated to cause a further increase of 141 billion in net domestic borrowing, and further Kenya shillings 22.6 billion additional borrowing from the external markets, Honorable Speaker. What this means, Honorable Speaker, we are now shifting the ratios as opposed to the original planning of 45-55 mix. It has now changed to 53-47 mix, meaning now with the new supplementary budget, the government targets to borrow 53% domestically and 47% externally. So as you can see, Honorable Speaker, the ratios have changed and they have implication. Honorable Speaker, the committee does observe a growing dependency on domestic borrowing. While recognizing the constraints in current financing options, it is important, Honorable Speaker, to highlight that domestic debt servicing constitutes the largest portion of public debt servicing, representing 68% of the total public debt servicing expenditures. What we are saying, Honorable Speaker, is out of the total interest rate we are going to pay, which is about 1.101 trillion, 68% of that amount will go to service domestic loans, which means it's only that 2 which will be servicing external loans, Honorable Speaker. Consequently, an increased reliance on domestic borrowing indicates an elevated exposure to interest risks and refinancing risk, Honorable Speaker. As such, Honorable Speaker, the committee noted that the liquidity risk in 2024-25 could have been mitigated as the Treasury single account being operationalized, which is been mandated by both the Cabinet and numerous House resolutions, and up to now, Honorable Speaker, it has not been made operational. Honorable Speaker, the Treasury single account is essential for consolidating government finances into a single account, facilitating budget execution, increasing transparency, and controlling expenditure. The committee noted that the Treasury did not provide a timeline within which single Treasury account is to be established, resulting in a slow pace of implementation of this critical resolution. Honorable Speaker, arising from the committee consultative arrangements, the committee, through its report, makes the following recommendations, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I must say we are very happy now that Honorable Mbandi is a man sitting now at the Treasury, the elm of the Treasury. Honorable Speaker, you know very well me and Mbandi, we have been pushing a lot of reforms in our financial sector. The other day when I met him here yesterday, after approval, I challenged him. I told him that now God has given you the opportunity we have all been looking forward to. You will be that side, and Makali Moon will remain here, so that I'll keep on reminding you what we have always been saying, implement. So, Honorable Speaker, I look forward to a situation where some of the things we have been discussing all over time with the Honorable Band and the House as a whole, now we have a person who appreciates and who can implement them. So the recommendation I'm pushing forward now, we are pushing forward as a committee. Honorable Speaker, the implementer is no other than Honorable Bandi. And we're happy that he knows what we are saying. The first recommendation, Honorable Speaker, we are saying within 30 days of the adoption of this report, the National Treasury, ended by Honorable Mbandi, should draft should draft annual borrowing plan for the financial year 2024-25, pursuant to Section 63D of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, and Regulation 186 of the same Act, which is Regulation of 2015, and after that, submit the plan to the National Assembly. The plan should also be published on the National Treasury website for transparency purposes. Honorable Speaker, this plan will be able to guide us as a country in terms of our borrowing plan and also the way we are using our loans. Recommendation number 2, Honorable Speaker. The National Treasury should develop an expenditure prioritization mechanism before the issuance of the 2025-2026 budget circular to increase resources towards capital development by 100% over the medium term and target capital projects with greater impact on capital formation and GDP growth to improve the country's long-term debt repayment capacity. We are saying we need to improve the way where we are pushing our loans in terms of development, Honorable Speaker. Recommendation number 3, to ensure smooth transition from cash-based accounting to accrual-based accounting, the National Treasury should be able to do the following, Honorable Speaker. Should create a detailed and time-bound transition plan for ensuring that the transition from cash accounting to accrual accounting is completed by the end of 2024-2025 financial year, Honorable Speaker. And part B of that, we are saying, provide quarterly updates to the National Assembly and other relevant stakeholders on the progress of transition to ensure accountability and transparency. Recommendation number 4, Honorable Speaker, the National Treasury to expedite the establishment of the Treasury single account required to mitigate liquidity risks and ensure timely implementation of both the Cabinet and auxiliary solutions. The National Treasury should ensure that the Treasury single account is established and fully operational by the end of 2024-2025 financial year and submit a progress report to the National Assembly by the 1st December 2024, Honorable Speaker. B of that, we are saying, should conduct, the National Treasury should conduct awareness campaigns within government entities to highlight the benefits of Treasury single account and ensure smooth adoption of the account. 5, the 5th recommendation, Honorable Speaker, of the committee, the National Treasury diversifies the fiscal deficit financing strategy by enhancing the use of grants from development partners and decreasing reliance on borrowing. Honorable Speaker, we have discovered as a committee that this country has been given some grants by our development partners. And you'll be surprised, Honorable Speaker, we are so keen to use the loans, and the grants are lying in some accounts, some are not being used, Honorable Speaker. Grants is free money, we are not expected to pay. It's to enhance the pledgeship. Loans are for payment. So it's very surprising, Honorable Speaker, I give you 1,000 shillings, I tell you, this is free money use, and I give you 2,000, I tell you this is a loan you pay me, and then you start using the loan, which you're supposed to pay, and you leave the grant to remain idle, Honorable Speaker. This doesn't make economic sense. It doesn't make financial sense. So we are saying now, Honorable Speaker, Treasury should make sure that wherever we have grants, can we make use of the grants before we start using the loans? This will help this country. Recommendation number 6, Honorable Speaker, as I conclude. The National Treasury reduces the volume carryovers by ensuring that pension payments are made promptly, thereby providing consistent financial support to retired civil servants and their dependents. Honorable Speaker, we've realized there is time lag in terms of paying our elders who have retired from the civil service. They have provided excellent service to us as a country, to Kenyan citizens. When they retire, you take 6, 8, even more than a year to get your pension, Honorable Speaker. We think that is very unfair. So we think now, with the leadership of Honorable Mbandi, we need to get our pensioners being paid on time so that they also appreciate that they worked for this country. Honorable Speaker, recommendation number 7, to enhance transparency in the management of pension in Kenya, the National Treasury publishes the following reports. Quarterly reports on the management of countries' pension. This report should be published and submitted to the National Assembly at least 30 days after the end of each quarter, so that we get that report and we are able to look at it. B of that, medium-term pension management strategy, Honorable Speaker. This strategy should be published, submitted to the National Assembly by 15th February each year, so that we appreciate what is happening with the pension. And the last one, Honorable Speaker, annual pension management report. This report should be published and submitted to the National Assembly within 2 months of the end of each financial year. So, Honorable Speaker, you realize this committee has actually been able to table quite a number of reports focusing on the consolidated fund services expenditures. And some of these reports are very good recommendations which can help this country move forward. That's why I always say thank you to the National Assembly for the wisdom to create this committee, which is Committee on Public Debt and Privatization, because it's a creation of the 13th Parliament. I always appreciate the leadership of the National Assembly for coming up with this very original idea of creating this committee, because public debt is a matter of national concern. So if we are able to address these matters, Honorable Speaker, we'll be able to have more resources to implement development programs for the sake of Kenyans. So as I conclude, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the members of this committee for sitting down and looking at this. And we hope that the recommendation we have given, Honorable Speaker, as a committee will be adopted by the House so that we are able to improve our financial management and be able to also help this country rely less on external financing and rely more on what we call ordinary revenue, the money we collect locally, Honorable Speaker. But I can't end this debate, Honorable Speaker, or this moving of this without saying that we have also realized, Honorable Speaker, we are facing a challenge of corruption. Just as we have corruption matters relating to our local revenue, also we have seen some areas where corruption seems to also be taking a root in the area of public debt. And I think as a country, we must get out these issues of corruption out of this area of financial management. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to say this. I do believe that Treasury has the right capacity, has the right personnel, and has the right instruments to manage our public debt. What we require, Honorable Speaker, is goodwill at two levels. Goodwill at the political level, where the highest office, political office in this land, must provide goodwill. And goodwill at the level of the CS, Honorable Mbandi, where what we call the Debt Management Office and the Treasury should be given a bit of independence to advise the government matters public debt, so that we get the right technical advice And if Honorable Mbandi is able to take that advice and advise the President accordingly, Honorable Speaker, these issues of public debt, we're going to be able to sort them out within a very short time, and our country will get back to the right track in terms of financial management. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request Honorable Dhuku, who is a member of our committee, to second this important motion. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Thuku Kwenya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, our Vice Chairman, for such a powerful address as you moved this motion by our committee. Mr. Speaker, I want to second and support this motion report that emanated from our sittings as members of this committee. And in my support, I want to take a three-pronged approach because I just want to talk about three things. And Mr. Speaker, you realize that CFS expenditures is an expenditure that we can do nothing much about it because they are first charge of the consolidated fund services. Because we have to pay our debts, we have to pay the offices of the president, the deputy president, independent commissions, and other independent offices. And of course, that comes as the first charge. And therefore, this report gives power to Treasury to do just that within any fiscal year. And Mr. Speaker, looking at the numbers and figures, then Kenyans should be worried as to where we are as a country. Because you can imagine a year like the year 2024-25, we have an expectation that we're going to collect about 3 trillion from revenue. And out of it, 2 trillion will have to be spent on loans and interest. In fact, 2 trillion, 1.9 trillion, 1 trillion is going to pay interest on our loans. 900 billion will be the component that will be paying the principal. Therefore, it means that more than 2/3 of our revenue is going to repayment of debts. And in fact, I believe as our speaker, the first speaker has just spoken, the Honorable Badi, the former member of Suba South, and a leader in this house, has some work to do into coming up with a solution as to how we are going to fix this issue of debt. The defeating or rather withdrawal of Finance Bill 2024 even poses more challenge to the Ministry of, that is the Treasury, because we denied ourselves, or we were denied an opportunity to collect a whole 346 billion, and which would have gone a long way in bridging the fiscal deficit that we have, or that has increased now because of the failure of passage of that bill to the tune of 765 billion. We'll have to look for somewhere to raise that money. And Mr. Speaker, it doesn't make things better. And I want to say, were it not for God who was on our side, this country would have collapsed. It would have collapsed because today we are faced with demonstrations and protests that are really going to shrink again our revenue collection. If these protests are going to be sustained, or if we're not going to get a solution to stop them, then our country will go down the way many other failed states have done, and we pray that, God forbid, that should not be the case. You know, we are enjoying a good time economically, so to say. Look at inflation. We are at 4.5, yet we have had these challenges. Thank God for the rains. Thank God for the food production that we've been enjoying. Because if we were importing all this stuff, then things would have been worse. Thank God for the stability of the shilling, because despite the protests that are ongoing, our shilling still continues to be strong. As at yesterday, I had an opportunity to even engage in Forex, and the dollar was changing at 130. And that means then that for quite some time now, we've had a sustained stability in our shilling. Mr. Speaker, There's an issue that has been mentioned on the issue of single treasury account. It is self-defeating for a country like Kenya, as much as we want to take care of the local banks that we have, so that then we have every government agency and entities having bank accounts in commercial banks. The chunk of the money that we borrow, if you are to look at our borrowing mix, like now the proposed one is 55 to 45. 55 domestic borrowing, 45 foreign borrowing. This 55% means then that we're going to borrow locally in excess of 400 billion. All these monies are going to come from commercial banks. Let us look at the flip side of it. How much money do we have? That is going to distract me, but anyway, Mr. Speaker, I beg that you all be more time so that I'm able to prosecute my case. I meant, how much money does government entities have in commercial banks? Failure to have single treasury account. We are forced to borrow our own money because it is our money or the government's money that the government keeps on borrowing. Mr. Speaker, this issue of single treasury account must be brought to fruition. It must be brought it must be actualized, because it's going to save us from borrowing our own money and paying interest that are unwarranted and actually causing interest rates to go high because of high demand coming from the government in terms of domestic borrowing. Mr. Speaker,
how long do you need to complete the contribution, and also, elaborate further the last point you are making on the single, you call it single what? Single treasury account. Give him 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your magnanimity and generosity. On the issue of single treasury account, what we're saying is government entities or the government corporations should not run unwarranted bank accounts. We should have one account in central bank whereby all the monies are consolidated, so that then in the event that the government wants to borrow any idle money, then they do not need to go to commercial banks, but can spend their own money, and as they collect, then they can keep pushing the monies to the entities that require them, as at that time when they require them. We've witnessed massive corruption, Mr. Speaker, through entities having bank accounts and negotiating for interest rates with banks that are not accounted for. And I think the way to go is the developing or inception of single treasury account. The other issue, Mr. Speaker, that I would want to speak on is the issue of pension. We have pensioners who retired 5, 10 years ago. They have not been paid their lump sum payments. Reason, that there have been authority, the money is to be spent from consolidated fund, but because of liquidity or other issues, you realize that they are not paid. But that is not the issue, Mr. Speaker. And I think as a parliament, we must pronounce ourselves on this. There's a lot of corruption that is happening, because you cannot convince me the reason as to why someone who retired in the year 2020 and another one retired in the year 2024, the one who retired in 2024 has received their lump sum payment and they are receiving their monthly pension, whereas the latter has not received. It is something that we need to really look into. And actually, my recommendation is that we should have a first in, first out. Whoever retired last should be should wait for the person who retired first to first of all receive their pensions, so that then there is that seamless payment that is not going to be seen to be favorable in terms of who knows who in the technical ranks in the pensions department. Mr. Speaker, you can, if you look keenly, you'll realize that pensions are exponentially increasing. The question that we should be asking ourselves as a country is this trend sustainable? And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to join those who are asking what should be the retirement age of our civil servants? Because the sooner they retire, the more that we're going to depress this pace of pensions, so that then we'll be paying so much for our people who have the ability to be working in the government, but then there is also an issue of creating employment for the young people. So it is really a balance, because if we decide now that every civil servant must retire at 60, then there's something else that we'll also be saying that will be straining our CFS expenditure in terms of the amount of pensions that we should be paying. Mr. Speaker, I want to support this report, and I want to bring members to speed that if it's one area that we need to focus on is the issue of public debt, because it's really depressing this country. Mr. Speaker, I second the report.
So questions are first proposed. The Honorable Dr. Wilberforce Oundo. Before I do that, I just wanted to, listening to both Honorable Thuku Kwenya and the Honorable Dr. David Makali, I don't think we have a reason to mourn the Honorable Mbadi joining the Treasury, because we have it all from you. We can now help Honorable Mbadi, as Honorable Mbadi helps us as we work together for the nation and for the economy. In fact, I've always said my CS treasuries, Dr. Makali Mulu, I didn't know the blessings were going to land on Honorable Mbadi instead. We wish them well. Huh? Let me propose the question. Honorable members, I now propose the question. This Honorable House adopts the report of the Public Debt and Privatization Committee and its consideration of the Consolidated Fund Services for the Supplementary Estimates 1 for financial year 2024-2025, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 24th July 2024. The Honorable Dr. Wilberforce Oundo.
This one doesn't work. Honorable Speaker, in view of the importance of the motion whose question has been proposed, noting the central role of public debt in locomoting this economy, number 35, and request that we either have the numbers or ask or we defer the debate under Standing Order number 96. Whichever pleases you, Honorable Speaker. Either Quorum 35 or defer debate on 96. On the importance of public debt, it is grossly unfair to the people of Kenya.
Your point is made, the Honorable Dr. Wilberforce Oundo. That's the beauty of listening to a sharp man and a leader like you. Yeah, because you make one statement and we hear the point you're making. As I consult the standing orders on the point, could we allow Honorable Jessica Mbalu to make a contribution, one or two, if you would permit Mover, then we'll make a decision on the matter being raised by Dr. Oundo.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, in fact, I really wanted to support Honorable Oundo, given the strength and the weight of the matter. And because you are consulting, Mr. Speaker, allow me to say that I do support the report. I support the report on motion number 11 by the committee on the public debt. Mr. Speaker, on the committee's recommendation, and this report was moved very well by my very able member of Wiper Democratic Movement, Honorable Makali Mulu, and seconded very well by Honorable Thuku. When it comes to recommendation number 6 by the committee, Mr. Speaker, they talk about the National Treasury by reducing the volume of the carryovers that the pension payments are made promptly. Mr. Speaker, we have a lot of pension that is due to be paid to our people. Look at the teachers, look at all the different areas that we have the pension.
Mr. Speaker, to manage the fiscal pressures which are stemming from rising patient liabilities, Mr. Speaker, it is important the policy measures which are aimed at the pension reforms, they are made efficient, and more resources are allocated to mention and to manage those fiscal pressures, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the report, the change is attributed to increase the pension expenditure related to ordinary pensions by Kenya shillings 5.7 billion, Mr. Speaker. Community pensions by 15.5 billion, and the public service superannuation scheme by 2.7, that is Kenyan shilling, billion. Mr. Speaker, this is very welcome, and I must recommend the committee on the same. Mr. Speaker, the supplementary base number 1 for financial year 24-25, you know very well in this assembly. They were submitted at the National Assembly, and it is on our record. That was on the Friday, 12th July 2024. And this was for consideration in this parliament by the members. And of course, it was in pursuant to our own constitution, that is Article 223. And just to be specific, Section 44 of the PFM Act 2012. So, Mr. Speaker, as I thank and congratulate the members on their recommendations, look at recommendation number 5. It says the National Treasury diversifies the fiscal deficit financing strategy by enhancing the use of grants from development partners and, of course, decreasing reliance on the borrowing. In the morning, our own Mr. Mbandi, who has been in Parliament with us, even since 2013 with Honorable Makali, became officially the CS Treasury. And now that we have been sitting on the same side of opposition, he knows very well what we have been talking about, issues of finance, issues of economy, what Kenyans have been complaining about, and I'm sure he's going to fix these gaps. On recommendation number 2, we are asking the Treasury, through the Committee of the National Assembly, a very respected committee, and I'm happy that the committee has been able to come up with at least recommendation that this House, this August House, will be remembered for with the members of the committee and, of course, being adopted by the Parliament. That we develop prioritization mechanisms before issuance of financial year 2025-2026 budget circular, which we are supposed to increase resources towards capital development. I think, Mr. Speaker, this is very welcome. The increase that the committee is asking and is proposing for our adoption as a House is to increase by 100% over the medium term and target capital projects with greater impact on capital and the GDP growth to improve the country's long-term debt repayment capacity. Mr. Speaker, you know, as a country, we have been complaining, we have been a shit, we have been a problem about, and we have been talking about issues of debt. I think this is a high time, through adoption of this report by the committee, that we are being able to manage our debts very well, and of course to increase the local borrowing. Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate and thank the committee for the recommendation that with
Why are you cutting Honorable Jessica Mbalu?
Mr. Speaker, is there a sabotage?
How many more minutes do you need?
Mr. Speaker, there's people of Kibwe send me here.
Yes.
I do not want to sabotage,
Yes.
but I just hope and pray that are the machines.
More so when you are in the colors of wiper.
Thank you, Mr.
How
Speaker.
many more minutes do you need, Honorable Jessica Mbalu?
Even 2 is enough, because I can see
Give
my
Honorable
members want
Jessica
to.
Mbalu 3 minutes. Don't stop Honorable Jessica Mbalu when she's making those important points. 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May God bless you. The recommendation by the committee, Mr. Speaker, which is very welcome, and of course it's going to help the Treasury and for Kenyans to ensure that our debt is managed well, and there's prudent expenditure of our resources and money, In 30 minutes, in 30 days, Mr. Speaker, calendar days of the adoption of this report by the National Parliament, the National Treasury drafts the financial year 2024-2025. And I just hope Mr. 1CS Bandi, Honorable Bandi, who has been with us, will listen and is listening and is watching. That annual borrowing plans pursuant to 63D PFM Act 2012 and Regulation 186 of PFM, that is a national government regulation 2015, and submits the plan to the National Assembly. And this is the House being referred in this committee, Mr. Speaker. It is going to be submitted to this National Assembly. And Mr. Speaker, this plan should be published on the National Treasury website for transparency processes. I agree with Mr. Makali that we have enough staff who have the capacity at the Treasury. And now that Bandi is there, this is the time to test him. This is the time to test what he has been speaking about. This is the time, even if he went to the other side, we have to test him. The public debt is a matter of national concern, Mr. Speaker. And so if as we improve our financial management, we want to rely less on the external loans. And Mr. Speaker, I want to be on record that I do support this report. Most important, the issue of the pensioners. How I pray that through this Parliament, the National Assembly, those who have not been paid their pension through this report will get their pension. And the National Assembly, the members, we will bless it. Thank you. Message from Kibwesi's constituency. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Jessica Mbalu. The Honorable Abdikadir Mohamed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this debate on CFS expenditures. Mr. Speaker, we know the problem of this country is about loans and public debt. And if you look at the CFS expenditure, the first charge is about 2.08 trillion. This, the loans we pay, the principal amount, the interest, and also the salaries for constitutional office holders like judges, president, and vice president. And what do you collect in a year? Last year we collected about 2.7 trillion, I think. It's almost that we have used almost 70% of our CFS, of our revenues is going to CFS expenditure. And we have to also finance our current expenditure and our development expenditure. This now makes us to borrow more money. But I think there's a way that we can reduce this reliance on loans. Middle East, they normally give grants, free money, no interest, no repayments. Since the year 2015, 15 billion shillings given as grant by Middle East countries like Saudi Fund, Kuwaiti Fund. Some of them was meant for projects within my constituency, Samatar, Wajir Road. It's Madugai Samatar Road, paid by Kuwaiti Fund. This money is still not utilized. For one single reason. We are told at Treasury, there's a staff in Treasury who think that grants, they have nothing to get. They will prefer to go and borrow loans, because in loans, they get something out of it. I think I said those are economic saboteurs. So I think as Honorable Mbadi now reports to Treasury, he should deal with some of this stuff, some of Treasury staff, who are not, they're not processing these grants for the last 15 years, just because there's nothing in for them. I think you should deal with them ruthlessly. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, sir, last year, financial year, we closed the year with almost 220 pending bills, 220 billion shillings pending bills. And why I sit as a member of a committee, that department which had almost 20 billion pending bills for last year. And they're told that this pending bill should be the first charge for this financial year, which means this financial year, they will have their budget cut by almost 20 billion shillings. And we continue creating financial hole for our departments. So if Treasury can avoid crossing those pending bills from one financial year to other, and then telling these guys the departments to do that as a first charge, I think we'll have avoided, because it means if they have closed the year with 20 billion pending bills, it means that this financial year budget will be reduced by another 20 billion. And we are just creating another financial hole. Mr. Speaker, sir, the issue of a single treasury account, and I think my colleagues also talk about. One thing I want to add is that I think also commercial banks, once we have that kind of account, commercial banks will lose. These are the money that are lending to Kenyans. These are the money that they lend to the government. And I think what we need to do is we also need to balance the interest of the commercial bank and the interest of state. So that if you have that single treasury account, it doesn't mean that you have to move everything from commercial banks to a single treasury account. So also you have to be very careful, because I'm sure banks would not like this story. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, if I go back to my point of the grants, if the government can look at the side of Middle East, I'm sure Middle East can be a very great help for us, and they will reduce our dependence on loans from China or from, let's say, Western countries. That can help us a lot. And Treasury should spend it and should very quickly process the pending 15 billion within Treasury of grants from Saudi Fund. Sorry, before this money is withdrawn by the country, because I'm sure by now they won't take back money.
You need how many more
1 minute.
minutes?
I'm concluding.
You have 2 minutes to conclude.
Okay. I think that money will have been of very great help for us. Imagine the money paid to us from 2015 up to now, and they're not utilizing it. I think the Treasury should investigate and look at why that money has been pending for the last 10 years, not utilized. Until now, the countries now are threatening to get back the money, and they'll take it to another country which are ready to use. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I support the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Wilberforce Oundo.
Honorable Speaker, due to the importance of the debate, the motion at hand, I stand at Standing Order 96 and move that the debate be now adjourned to a later date so that we can debate it exhaustively when we are ready to debate it. So I move that the debate be now adjourned. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Oundo. The debate will be adjourned to a later date. That is the debate on motion appearing as order number 11. Will be adjourned to a later date as it will be scheduled by the House Business Committee for those good reasons. Next order.
Order number 12, the COVID bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2023, second reading.
The mover in the House. That particular motion is stepped down for consideration in the future. Next order.
Order number 13, motion. Public petition on funds spent contrary to the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution. Resumption of debate.
Anybody keen to speak to this particular motion? It is a continuing debate. The public petition on funds spent contrary to provisions of 223 of the Constitution. You want to make some contributions? Please proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I remember the last time this motion was before the House, before it being moved and seconded. We had to adjourn the motion because this is a very important report from the Petitions Committee, Honorable Speaker. And what this committee had done was to look at some of the expenditure items under the Article 223, which is the article which captures the supplementary budgets in this country and what needs to be done in case you have not provided for in terms of budget. And at the same time, Honorable Speaker, what happens in case you have emergency. Honorable Speaker, having looked at the report into details, you realize that 2 items were not approved by the committee, and they did recommend further investigation. This is the matter of, Honorable Speaker, the issue of telecom, where the government did pay about 6 billion to pay for some shares in terms of privatization of this important government entity. And the other one was for food subsidies, Honorable Speaker, where you remember the 100 shillings men's flour, Honorable Speaker. So looking at the 2 items, Honorable Speaker, because this matter also came to us as a budget committee, and we were not convinced that those 2 items, Parliament had any reason to regularize them as required by law. And what I want to say is this, Honorable Speaker, most of these expenditures were just towards the election time, Honorable Speaker. And I think there are a number of lessons we have learned from these 2 expenditure items, Honorable Speaker. And I think it's now that already the House was not able to approve them. And I must thank Mutunga's committee, which is a committee on agriculture, because they also looked at the matter and they were able to single out genuine expenditure items and ones which were not genuine, Honorable Speaker. On the basis of that, what the lessons we have learned, Honorable Speaker, is anytime this country approaches elections, there is a very high likelihood of expenditure being incurred which is not expenditure which will help this country at all. Expenditure which is targeted basically to finance campaigns. And Honorable Speaker, that's why I like the recommendation that any election here in this country, Honorable Speaker, as a House, we need to safeguard public resources by coming up with a very clear framework, Honorable Speaker, in terms of what should we spend our money on about 3 or 6 months to election, and what should we spend our money, what we should not spend public resources on 6 months to election. In that case, Honorable Speaker, we'll be helping this country in terms of ensuring that people don't take advantage of some of these laws under the Public Finance Management Act to misapply, to get public money to do their campaigns. The second point, Honorable Speaker, which is important, is any budget we do, Honorable Speaker, on an annual basis, there's a fund we call contingency fund, Honorable Speaker. For example, if you look at the current budget, 2024-25, Honorable Speaker, because of the challenges we are facing as a country, we have only provided for 4 billion as contingency resources. These are resources, Honorable Speaker, which the country should be able to use when we have an emergency. Honorable Speaker, you realize that despite this money being in the account in Treasury, people go ahead and spend money under 223 and not under the contingency fund. Basically because the use of contingency fund at a very well-detailed structure in terms of how you use the money, and you must account for the money. While 223, you can use the money and come to the House and then ask the Parliament to regularize. So 223 is more prone to abuse, Honorable Speaker, as opposed to the contingency fund. And that's why MDS rush to spend money under 223 and not through the contingency fund, Honorable Speaker. So that point of contingency fund, Honorable Speaker, we must make sure that departments use contingency fund before they start using 223, so that once the contingency fund is exhausted, Honorable Speaker, then we have a reason to say now we can use 223. That was the second item, Honorable Speaker. And the third item, Honorable Speaker, matters 223. As a House, And Honorable Mbanda has said this. He had proposed a bill to amend Public Finance Management Act and the Constitution on the use of 223. We need to support the new CS Treasurer now that is sitting there so that we amend this, the Constitution, and get utilization of this 223 article, Honorable Speaker, being streamlined so that as we move to the future, no civil servant will be able to abuse this 223 article. And in that case, Honorable Speaker, we'll be able to help this country. And I can tell you, Honorable Speaker, public management issues in this country will improve a lot. So, Honorable Speaker, this report, what the committee has said is still pushing the further investigation to the DCI and other investigative agencies. But I think as a House, Honorable Speaker, this recommendation came through the Committee of Agriculture. The same recommendation was pushed by us, Committee of Budget and Appropriations. Now this petition.
Give Dr. Makali Mulu 2 minutes.
Yeah, so what I was saying, Honorable Speaker, is I think time has come that now this recommendation has been not new, where Honorable Mutunga pushed the same recommendation, Budget and Appropriation Committee, we push for the same recommendation. Now this Petitions Committee is pushing for the same recommendation. Can we now move to the next step, where we immediately direct the investigating agencies to take up this matter immediately, and within 2 or 3 months, or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, we get a report, which is details. A report which can now, Honorable Speaker, from where you sit, which can help now the DPP to push these people to court. And if possible, we want to see heads roaring, Honorable Speaker, so that we want to see people be taken to jail because of misusing 223. With those remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support and submit. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Mutunga.
Honorable Speaker, I rise on a point of order number 96, or the standing order number 96, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the kind of issues that the Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu is bringing up are so salient and important that I would wish we would have quorum in this House. Honorable Speaker, I would like to propose that we adjourn that particular debate to a later date when probably we'll have more people in this House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I note Honorable Osing has come in to contribute to this debate. Honorable Sabina Chege, the Deputy Majority Whip, Dr. Naomi Wako. But really, I will grant that this debate be adjourned to a future date so that we continue with it when the House is much more full. Next order.
Order number 14, motion. Implementation status of reports on petitions and resolutions passed by the House.
Chairperson, Committee on Implementation, engaged out of the House on other state duties, the motion will be stepped down for consideration by Parliament to a later date. Next order.
Order number 15, motion. Allege unfair trade practices by foreign investors in Kenya.
The Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, again out of the country, not out of the country, but out of the House on other government engagements, stepped down this motion to a later date when it will be scheduled for consideration by the House Business Committee. Next order.
Order number 16, motion. Second report on employment diversity audit in public institutions.
Chairperson, Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunities. Particular chairperson had requested that this particular one be stepped down. Honorable members, remember this is the day the new cabinet was being sworn in. Most of these members are out on other state engagements. This particular motion is also stepped down to a later date. Next order.
Order number 17, motion. Report on the extraordinary session of the 6th Pan-African Parliament, PAP.
Member of the Pan-African Parliament to move. Again, mover engaged out of Parliament on other government businesses. This particular motion stands step down for consideration by the House to a future date. Next order.
Order number 18, the Equalization Fund Administration Bill, Senate Bill number 14 of 2023, second reading.
Yeah, again, honorable members, the chairperson, Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning is clearly not in the House. Consideration by the House of this particular motion is deferred to a later date. Let us be upstanding, honorable members. Honorable members, the time being 6:02 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Tuesday, the 13th day of August 2024 at 2:30 p.m.